Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome. Oh, wait, it's not normal. I didn't change my. It's not the normal America show. Welcome to On Notice with RobGPT. I'm part of your host. I'm the Rob part of it. Everything I will say, I will type into ChatGPT, or I'll bully ChatGPT to say whatever I want. Still on notice, baby. It's great to be here. It's great to finally be home. It's great to finally be able to stream. Got a good one for you tonight. Should be a good one. Oh, we got a bunch of people complaining about Jewish folks and the good stuff. I'm feeling better. Late night and on notice. Dang right. Now, where are we today? We still doing the Pisco arc? I don't know. Last night I did want to stream, but unfortunately I had a bunch of work stuff to do, and I had a bit of a stomach bug. Also went to a back doctor early in the morning. They're going to get me set up with some injections and what have. It should be next week. So until then, I'm pretty good. I got a lot of stuff to do with work. We'll get that done. And setting up for my live stream, my 24-hour live stream that's going to occur Saturday into Sunday on the Saturday before the election. So that'll be November 2nd into 3rd. Trying to get some guests lined up. Maybe I won't get any guests lined up and it'll just be me talking for 24 hours. But you want to know what the great thing is? I could do it. I could talk for 24 hours if I need to. So we'll get it figured out. But I'm sure we'll have some guests. It'll be great. Black Elks helped me find some guests. Andrew Wilson at the Crucible is going to help me. I want to get in touch with my friends here in Pennsylvania. And it'll be all about trying to drive out the vote everywhere, but in particular Pennsylvania, for Donald Trump. So that's what we'll be doing it. Why not do it on election night? Because I'll be voting and trying to get as many people as I can convince to go vote. And if I do it on election night, by that point, many people will have voted that day in person before they have a chance to see my show. So I think it makes more sense to do it beforehand. That's my feelings on it. I'll probably still be doing a show election night, but the 24-hour show, yeah. Good suggestion, Lamrock. Yes, people should vote early. That's true. For those that didn't, still over 50% of people will be voting in person that day. I think it's terrible advice to wait to do a show to get people out to vote until election day itself. To me, that sounds like a very poor idea, but thank you for the recommendation. DGG fan? But your wife noticed. What's up, Arukar Oak? Everyone else? So yeah, I'm feeling a little better today than I was yesterday. So that's good. We enjoy that. You like Destiny? I think it makes sense why, if you're doing a show to encourage people to go vote, why you don't wait until election day to do it. Seems like not the wisest thing to do. There you go. Every little vote helps. So, in other news, close to 10,000 subs on YouTube. So we'll make a push for that. It'd be nice to get there by the end of the new year. I think I'm like 600 away. That'd be a big number for me. So we'll be fine. I think it'll be nice to get there. So figure we'll talk about whatever people want today. If someone wants to call in and debate with me, we could do that as well. But I thought the focus would be primarily on politicizations of hurricanes and how it's a really big deal. Except it turns out it's Kamala doing it. Vortome, super chat for $10. Thank you. Any thought in Andrews, Wilson, and Natty situation over on X? No, I don't know anything about it. I don't know who Natty is. I really don't. And I didn't see any drama that was going on with Andrew. I assume this is probably related to sort of cultural debates and things about his appearances on What Culture. But nope, I haven't heard any. Maybe I'll look into it. I did talk to Andrew today, but was not referencing anything like that. Yeah, sure. An unreasonable man. I'd happily do your show at some point. Send me. Best way to get in contact with me is through a DM on X. Yeah, Grid Motorsports. Yeah, send me a DM on X. Best way to get in touch with me. But be happy to do the show. But yeah, that 24-hour show will be fun, man. It's always a lot of fun. Yeah, send me a DM on Discord too. I don't check that as often. But what do I think the Electoral College will look like election night? I think that Kamala will win. I still put Trump at about a 5% chance. I know there's optimism for Trump because some of the polling's starting to shift back the other way. I don't think it'll be enough to overcome shenanigans that we'll see election day. Not just illegal shenanigans, also the legal, because things have been allowed to get out of hand as they are. Ballot harvesting. I wouldn't be surprised if we see things like in Arizona where in-person voting, our machines just aren't working today. Things of that nature. So I don't think that Trump will be able to overcome that. Do I think she'll get over 300? No. I don't. I look for it to be, I think she'll win Pennsylvania. I think she'll win Michigan. I think she'll win Nevada. I look for it to be around 280 in that area. Just enough to win. But it's an ortho LARPer that called Andrew a bad hombre for being mean to women. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I haven't followed much of the ortho debate. Mike, who was the best debater I've faced against so far? Online? The best debater I ever faced was a person by the name of... Let me think of their name. I can picture their face. He was a debater at Wayne State University. He was ranked number 1 in the country. I debated him once. Should have won the round, too. I dropped the ball at the last minute. But that's the best person I've ever debated, probably. Online, the best person I've debated? I don't know. There was this dude that called in once he was a no-name person who wanted to argue about religion. He did pretty well on it. It depends on the topics, too. So anyways, we'll talk about sort of things going on with the hurricanes. Yes, I still put Trump's chance of winning around 5%. I don't think he'll be able to overcome. His margins would have to be up 10% in the swing states, I think, for him to be favored. I just don't think that'll be the case. Now, having said that, I'm the type of person that's pessimistic when it comes to these sorts of things because I believe that this corruption is so entrenched. I just don't think that they'll leave Trump win. But I'm still going to do everything I can to get as many people as possible, particularly in Pennsylvania, to go vote for Donald Trump and the Republicans. So, yeah, that dude's name was Christian. You're right. He was good. He was a good debater. So, now, the polling has been more optimistic for Trump here lately. It has. But, again, Q will save us. Sherry will, or she, or they. Whatever your feelings are, look, you go back and watch my streams going into the 2020 election. I was amazed at how confident people were that Trump was just going to clean house. He was going to win easily. It was going to be 48 states. And I was like, wow, you're making the same mistake Hillary people made in 2016. Overconfidence breeds complacency. And so my personal way that I try to look at it is to always assume you're losing. Always assume you're losing. I don't care if the polls show that Trump's up 80%. Assume you're losing. Do everything you can. So I hope that's the way the Trump team's approaching it. That's the way I recommend everyone approach anything in life. The poly market stuff, I don't know. It's easy for gamblers to make mistakes as well, but I don't know. In some ways, poly market might be more accurate because people are putting real money at stake. But that I don't put any much more. So I don't know. I also thought Trump didn't have a chance in 2016. I was wrong about that. So. I don't know what Dean Withers' position is on abortion. I guess I could talk about abortion real quickly, since it's been a bit. I feel that, personally, abortion, take legality out of it. I would never recommend an abortion for anyone, with the exception of the mother's life's in jeopardy, or if for whatever reason the child would be born in such a chronically painful condition with no hope to life, maybe there could be an argument made for it. But personally, I would never, if I ever got someone pregnant, I would never want that person to have an abortion. I don't think anyone should ever want to have an abortion. The legality of it's a more difficult position. I think that both sides make a strong case. The pro-choice people do make a case that I am worried about bodily autonomy and the government's right to control decisions of what I do with my personal health and life. It's a legitimate concern. I wish that the liberals that feel that way about abortion also felt that way when it came to vaccine mandates. They happen not to. So most of them are hollow when it comes to being pro-choice and bodily autonomy. But I understand the impetus for where that argument comes from. I also understand if you believe life begins at conception or you believe abortion is the termination of a human life, why you would be so serious and so find that to be the most important argument, because basically that's tantamount to hundreds of thousands of children being murdered a year. I understand that. To me, the argument for life supersedes the argument for choice. For example, I may have the right to do all sorts of things. And as someone who's libertarian adjacent, I believe that I should have the right to do all sorts of things until it infringes on others. And the direct termination of another life would clearly be something that I don't have the right to do for my own well-being, unless it's an act of defense, which clearly just terminating another life isn't an act of defense, etc. So clearly I lean more towards the pro-life position. There is an argument to be made is, once we consider it life, does that matter, or does it when we consider it human life? And I understand that argument. Personally, I come down on the position that there's probably legally should be allowed to have an abortion for some amount of time, whether we say that that's brain activity, heartbeat activity, the ability to feel pain. I'm not quite sure where I put that. My guess is that that's probably around 6 to 8 weeks. I would say after that we should not allow abortions with exceptions. If someone was raped and they are unable to get to a medical facility because they have been chained to a wall, yes, I would be okay with exceptions in that case. If someone was a child and they had no idea what was going on with their body because they were raped, yes, maybe that's a situation where I would allow exceptions. Clearly, I would allow exceptions for the life of a woman, because at that point it does sort of become, you shouldn't have to die to save another life. I think that that's a choice that you should be able to make. But that's basically, I don't buy the consciousness argument that you could only kill, that it's not a human life until it is conscious. That would mean that people that later lose consciousness as human lives would no longer be considered humans. I find that grotesque. I also think that the left-wing position is far more grotesque than anything that's advocated on the right. I would far rather side with the life begins at conception people and the morning after pill should be illegal, even though I don't think that's the case. I would be more likely to put my hat in with those people than the people that want 9-month abortions, which is as grotesque of a position as I could imagine. Yeah, or if you want to call in, no problem. That's basically my position. Hey, I'll ask this once. I'm not big. I don't really give a shit. If it was up to me, you guys could make all the anti-Semitic jokes you want or tropes or whatever. You are aware, though, Mighty Jew and everyone else that's making all the Jew jokes and shit in the chat and talking about Jewish stereotypes, you're just going to get me banned. You're aware of that, right? You're aware that that's what happens when you do that sort of stuff. I don't give a shit. In my real life, you want to hang out at my house and you want to tell Jewish jokes, that's fine. I have Jewish friends, they'll laugh at it, and then they'll make Italian jokes or Polish jokes or black jokes, whatever. I don't give a fuck. But that's the net result of if you're telling those sorts of jokes on my channel. So I'd just appreciate if we don't do it. It'd be better for me that I won't have to put my foot down, because I just think you're putting me in a tough position. That's all I'm saying. I don't think anything here has been too offensive. Just saying. That's what'll happen. You know it. Everyone in the chat knows it. Everybody knows. If you've remotely followed the internet, you know the path this will go down. So I just appreciate to keep it off the channel. That's all. And if you feel that that's censorship or whatever, I apologize to you. I don't know what to say. That's it. So thank you, Mighty G. Yeah. It's stupid. I agree. If I was a billionaire and could have my own platform like YouTube or Twitch, whatever, I'd have a platform. And I'd say, yeah, as long as you're not threatening violence and shit, have at her. I don't give a shit. That's my feelings on it. Your best girls, tranny fluid. Come on now. Now, where were we? We got on the abortion tangent. The problem is, there was this guy, his name was Average Debate Enjoyer. He called in once to give me the business on abortion because I said the Democrat position is no law. That's their position. That is the mainstream Democrat position. No, it's not, he said. That's not. That's absurd. That's absurd. Someone show me at the national level. Tim Walz was asked point blank, he was asked twice by the moderators, would you have any restrictions even at 9-month abortions? Couldn't say yes. Could he? Couldn't say it. The law that he oversaw in his state seems to allow 9-month abortions as long as the doctor and the woman's cool with it. The New York law seems to allow 9-month abortions. That is the Democrat position. When they say it should be between a doctor and the woman, their position is there should not be a law that interferes with that. That is grotesque. It's grotesque. And that is the official position of the Democrats. I'm not saying that every Democrat believes that. There might be one in a purple state that runs on, well, we need to allow first trimester abortions, but then after that should be restrictions. But that's the national party identity. So, anyways, abortion. It's a difficult position because I understand people feel passionate about this on both sides. Past, current, and future consciousness. I don't understand. That's what's necessary to not allow an abortion? That's absurd. That would mean that a person who is comatose would be allowed to be killed by someone if it's considered a impediment to their happiness. Excuse me. This stomach thing I had also was like really gassy, belching and stuff too. It's crazy. And it's been going around. I know a lot of people that have had it around here. So not great. Now, how many people we got on here? We're stalling enough. Let's talk about Kamala, shall we? Kamala. By the way, I still don't know how to pronounce her name fully, and I don't give a shit at all. Don't care. I would have probably made an effort to, like, it's like Iran. Remember I did that debate and was on this panel with this chick, progressive, what was her name? Progressive brat. And I said Iran, and she goes, it's Iran. And I was like, yeah, fuck you. I'll call it Iran if I want. Eat shit. Same thing with Kiev. Remember when everyone called it Kiev, the city in Ukraine? Now it's Kyiv. It's Kyiv. That's how I feel about Kamala. I think it's pronounced Kamala, but I just don't give a shit. That's what I've always called it, so... how long am I going tonight? I don't know. A couple hours. Until 10, 10:30, 11 maybe. So anyways, we'll go with Kamala. I love that they get all pissy about it though. And then half the people you see complaining about it, you've seen video of them previously mispronouncing it. It's just another thing to call, to complain about. But that was funny. I saw Wick TV, and to a lesser extent Pisco, giving shit to Jebtan. Now, for those that don't, here's these characters. Jebtan, traditional conservative, Nikki Haley type supporter, isn't going to vote for Trump. Doesn't like Trump. Okay, but still a conservative. Kamala comes out and gives, like, it's basically like, I tried to call DeSantis and he wouldn't take my call. And so I don't know who started this. Wick TV, who works for Progressive Victory PAC, lefty, is going to vote for Kamala, is like, Ron DeSantis politicizing the hurricane, terrible, terrible. And Jebtan's like, nah, I don't think so. And that's sort of the impetus for their back and forth. And then Pisco weighs in and is like, oh, but you were pissy about, Joe Biden not reaching out or not saying anything quick enough when there was an assassination attempt on Trump. Jebtan makes a case why these things are different. He's right, those are different. But the interesting point is that Wick, and to a lesser extent Pisco, are implying, Wick straight up saying it, that there was a problem with DeSantis being political in nature with how he's dealing with the hurricane because he didn't accept a phone call from Kamala Harris. And what's hilarious is the story now is the truth, which is it is Kamala Harris that is politicizing the hurricane. And it's a really great litmus test to see just how disingenuous so many of these people are. They'll clutch their pearls about, oh my God, how dare Ron DeSantis play politics in the middle of this hurricane? How dare he? Kamala Harris was just trying to call and help. And DeSantis is like, well, I've been on the phone with FEMA, the people I'm supposed to be. I've talked to Joe Biden. Kamala's been there for almost 4 years at this point. Never once called during a hurricane or a storm season. Not once. She doesn't have any official capacity in the process. So what exactly was her call, if not political nature? I don't have time for this shit. We're working to prepare for the hurricane and then to be ready after it to rebuild as quick as possible. That's the point. And then, of course, Joe Biden comes out and says DeSantis has been fully cooperative, taking calls. Fully cooperative. Now, who am I supposed to believe? Kamala Harris? Or DeSantis and Biden? Who am I supposed to believe on this? What exactly, does she have some sort of expertise that she was going to offer? Does she have an ability to direct FEMA, unlike Joe Biden, or unlike the people that are running FEMA? Can someone tell me exactly what it is that Kamala Harris was bringing to the table with this? Can't they both be political? Sure, they could be. You're politicizing it as well, too. Can't you be politicizing it as well? I suppose you could. Yes, two things could be occurring at the same time. Ron DeSantis not bringing up Kamala Harris when it came to Hurricane Helene, not bringing any of it up until Kamala Harris said, he didn't take my call, he's being political. Him saying, what the hell did you want from me? I took the calls from Biden and all this. Yes, your point of two things could happen at the same time. Hypothetically, those can. You give no evidence that DeSantis was politicizing this whatsoever. You make a dog shit, both sides do a point, which is amongst the lowest tier thing that someone's stupid. But you're a Destiny fan, so we won't hold you to the same standard we would hold other people. So it is Kamala Harris that is politicizing this. Now, of course, I thought one of the funny things was when I brought this up that Wick didn't respond. When I was like, hey, Wick, now what? Didn't respond. When I bring it up to Pisco, he's like, well, I was arguing about something slightly different. But then he posts an article up that's like, well, Kamala's team did call. And Biden, when it came to Helene, he offered to walk around the scene, send people to walk around the scene with DeSantis, and DeSantis didn't accept that offer. Okay, none of that has anything to do with the importance of taking Kamala Harris's call. He only took the call after Kamala Harris came out and said this. So, did Biden call beforehand and DeSantis turned it down? And even if that did occur, it's clear that Joe Biden's saying he cooperated fully, which means that Joe Biden and FEMA didn't think that their efforts were hampered by whatever potential call they had that allegedly was turned down. So, what's the issue here? Then when I bring it up, it's like Joe Biden says full cooperation. He seems to be saying DeSantis is doing fine, which we'll get to that in a second. Pisco says, well, of course Joe Biden's going to say that. He's a pro. He's a pro. Okay. Then what's that mean? Kamala's not? Isn't that a hilarious way of admitting that Kamala Harris is shit? So let me get this straight. His argument is, actually, yes, Ron DeSantis is a big prick that's not cooperating, but Joe Biden's not going to call that out because he's taking the higher ground. He doesn't really believe that DeSantis is cooperating. He's just a pro. He's taking the higher ground because there's something more important right now than politicizing this moment. Okay, then why didn't Kamala do that? Isn't it amazing how the left so frequently tells us that we can't believe the actual words that are said? Trump says go be peaceful. They say, that's proof that Trump meant be violent. Jamal Bowman says, I didn't intend for the alarm to go off. Pisco says, that's proof that he did intend for the alarm to go off. Joe Biden says, DeSantis has been fully cooperative with us. Pisco says, that's proof that Joe Biden thinks that he hasn't been cooperative. And he's just saying that because he's a pro. You see? But even if that's true, even if they're right, well, then wouldn't that imply that Kamala Harris isn't a pro? That she's willing to make these statements for politicization? What is the take from what Kamala Harris said other than she's saying it for political reasons? What's the possible explanation? Let's say she did call. She had great insight to offer Ron DeSantis. If we believe that, if we believe this stretch, that she either has some authority over FEMA that Joe Biden and the FEMA director doesn't have, or that she has some knowledge of hurricane preparation that the FEMA people and the Biden people and DeSantis don't have. So she's some expert. Of course, the first question then is, then why didn't she call every other year when there were storms? If she's such an expert, and by the way, what was her advice? Couldn't she just give it? She has a platform. I mean, the media fawns over her. So if she had important notifications to give, couldn't she have got on national TV and told at least the people of Florida? That prick DeSantis was intentionally withholding the great wisdom of Kamala Harris from his constituents in Florida. Surely Kamala Harris could have, she went on national TV and went beyond DeSantis, right? Lamrock Music makes an excellent point. Now, Lamrock Music's going to make the point that Pisco tried to make this as well. Wait a minute, you called her the border czar. You said that Biden's not really running shit. You said that Kamala Harris is running shit. And so therefore, if she's running shit, well then, at that point, doesn't that mean that she is the one that's running FEMA? That's fine if that's the admission. How is Ron DeSantis to know that then? Ron DeSantis is under the apprehension that actually the people he needs to talk to are the people at FEMA, not Kamala Harris. So wouldn't it be incumbent on Kamala Harris to, stop gaslighting and lying to the entire country and say, actually, Joe Biden's been out to lunch, and I actually run the entire show? Secondly, no one said that Kamala Harris is running the entire country. What we said is it's clear that Joe Biden isn't, and by the words of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, she has been a on-point person for many of these terrible decisions, such as the border, the economy, the withdrawal from Afghanistan. I don't believe that Joe Biden nor Kamala Harris, up until the point that Joe Biden dropped out, ever once mentioned that Kamala Harris was an integral part of FEMA or hurricane preparation. Unaware of that? Maybe they did. But I love how people try to turn this. That's right. That's what I'm saying. Why would DeSantis know that? That's exactly what I'm saying. Don't you love how these people try to turn things? Well, wait a minute. Kamala is running everything. So when she makes a phone call to Ron DeSantis, he must answer because Kamala Harris runs everything. Sure, I can have my cake and eat it too. Look at me. I'm a fat guy. You yourself are the one that's incapable of that. If Kamala Harris comes out tomorrow and says, hey, I've been running everything. We forced Joe Biden out. The man's a human vegetable. I lied to you for 4 years. I'm actually running FEMA right now. Then yes, I will accept that Ron DeSantis should have taken a call with her. Otherwise, when Ron DeSantis is saying, I talked to the FEMA people, we got what we requested from them. When Joe Biden and the FEMA people are saying, we talked to Ron DeSantis, we feel the cooperation has been complete and good, I refuse to believe that somehow Kamala Harris is an integral part of that FEMA. That's different, or of FEMA. That's different than when she is told to be the border czar that's there at the border that's making these decisions, and then they become so disastrous. The problem is, and this is the truth, Kamala Harris doesn't do shit. That's the truth. Kamala Harris, just like Joe Biden, is an empty suit. This administration has been ran by people behind them. Kamala Harris is an idiot. She is a dunce. She is an empty suit that will change her positions on a moment's notice. She is incapable of formulating coherent thoughts when her teleprompter goes down. She doesn't have policy positions other than her impetus to be a communist and a socialist. That's who she is. She is the Green New Deal type person. She is the defund the police type person. She has to pretend she's not those things because she knows that those aren't popular in an election year. She is the person that wants to ban fracking. But what she really does when she's there, above all of that, is she's an empty suit that will do anything that the people that really run the show tell her to do. What we've been told by the Democrats is that's not true. Kamala Harris is a very shrewd, intelligent leader. She's had a hand in all of these policies. So what people like me have said is, okay, you can't have it both ways. Either she's had a hand in all of these policies and the American people are giving the thumbs down to those policies, particularly those on foreign policy, the border, and the economy, which means she should be held accountable just like Biden's being held accountable. Or they admit she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. She's basically done nothing for 4 years. And the same people that run the Biden show are going to run her show, which would still mean that all the policies that people dislike under Biden would be formulated and continued under Kamala Harris. It's basically ramble, 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 says Lamrock. Here's what we'll do. You seem to be a very intelligent person. Lamrock will give you a chance to call in. If you would not like to call in, then I'll ignore you for the rest of the day. Lamrock, would you like to call in? You say ramble, ramble, ramble. So clearly, you have a strong point to make here. All I could do is ramble, ramble, ramble. By all means, would you like to call in? Would you like to? Oh, now you so VPs don't do shit. Any 4 years. Great. So Kamala Harris hasn't done anything. You're not the only one in the chat. What does that matter? You don't want to call in? All right. Thank you so much, Lamrock. You feel free to keep participating. I'll ignore your posts from here on out. Thanks so much. Kamala Harris didn't do anything for 4 years. Now, in the debate I had in the call-in show the other day with this Andrew guy, right? Was that his name? Aaron, Andrew? I can't remember. It didn't go so well for him. One of the things he said why Walz won the debate against Vance was because even though it was never brought up in the debate, and I said the important thing that what Vance did was tie Kamala Harris to the disastrous policies of Joe Biden, he said, no. Everybody knows that's not true. Kamala Harris comes out on The View and is asked, remember, the media and the Harris campaign team have gaslit Americans that she is the candidate of change. She's the candidate of change. Things will be different. We're going to change. And constantly, you can point to statement after statement she's made in the past month alone. People can't afford this stuff anymore. They can't. It's time for change. Okay. How can you be the candidate of change if you're the incumbent? Well, she's going to be vastly different than Biden. Cool. How? Well, she was finally asked that question. She was asked that question on The View. You know what she said? She was asked specifically, can you think of anything you would have done different than Biden? No, I can't. Nothing comes to mind. That's how bad she is. She's so bad that the most obvious question that could be asked, literally, the central theme of her campaign is very similar to the Obama campaign. Change. Hope and change. Vibes and things will be different. Now, with Obama, it worked for multiple reasons. One, he wasn't the incumbent. His party wasn't the incumbent. George Bush was. So you could run as changing things. I'm not there right now. Makes sense. Regardless if you agree with that or not, that Obama would be changed. I disagree that he was. But nonetheless, that message makes sense. Hey, Republicans, Bush has been there. I'm not Bush. I'm different. I got different ideas. We're from the different party. Okay? And Obama, regardless of what you think of him, was actually an intelligent person who's a good speaker. Now, he too had problems going off prompter, but nowhere near the level of Kamala. Thank you so much, whoever gifted John Barrett. Thanks so much for the gifted membership. Really appreciate it, man. That's the problem. So if your entire campaign is, okay, we're going to keep this lady just like with Joe Biden, except some ways even worse, we're going to keep her in the basement. We're going to allow the media to be surrogates and basically say, oh, vibes, joy, change, Kamala, she's great. That was the strategy. It's going to be different. Things are changing. And I've been saying ever since she's been in there, I was like, it's hilarious. You've been gaslit over and over. Not only were you gaslit by the media, the Democratic Party, all the goobers that I stream with all the time that told you that there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden's mental health. They knew it. We knew it. Everybody knew it. They lied to you nonetheless. I said they're also lying to you when they talk about how secure the border is, how great the economy is. They're lying to you. I've been saying for years, I don't understand this messaging on the economy from the Biden administration. Because they're like, it's like the greatest economy. It's doing fantastic. The economy's humming. And what did I say over and over? I was like, imagine being a Biden voter and you're like, well, shit, I'm struggling mightily. And so I'm going to see what my guy I voted for, how's he going to help me? And you tune in to hear what they're saying and they're like, economy's great. What do you think the chances are that some policy comes forward from them that helps you then? If they're saying that things are doing really great. And then it's obvious that their internal polling shows that this is a huge problem for them. The border and the economy particularly is a huge problem. People don't... If you go back and you watch the panel debate I did on Dylan Burns' show, what did I say? Very simple message to win the debate if you're Trump. I was there for 4 years. The Harris-Biden administration's there for 4 years. Were you better off economically? Were you better off with border security? Was the world more peaceful? Yes, is the answer to all three of those when I was there. The Democrats want to shift. They want to talk about January 6th. They want to talk about Trump's mean. J.D. Vance is weird. Threat to democracy. That's what they want to talk about. If they were right in what they told you, this is one of the greatest economies ever, the border's super secure, foreign policy is awesome, then they wouldn't have to focus so much on threat to democracy, J.D. Vance is weird, vibes and joy. Their central message wouldn't be change. So if you go back and you look at my debate suggestions for both Trump and for Vance, both of those I said because they're trying to hide her and they're trying to make this simultaneous argument that like, well, she's the VP and she was integral in a lot of the stuff. She's smart. She's a good leader, but she's the candidate of change. And they're sort of hiding her and letting her get away with this. Trump and Vance needed to use that time on the debate stage to be like, listen, if you're unhappy with the direction the country's going, she's been there. Why didn't she do all of these great things that she's now claiming that she's going to do? Trump didn't do a very good job of that. Vance did a superb job of that. And yet this caller tells me that's nonsense. Nope. Thanks, Sue Phillips. We'll talk about ChatGPT here in a bit. Why doesn't she have a better answer? And this is what's shocking to me. So when she finally, and by the way, listen, I'm still saying I think Kamala Harris will win. Don't get me wrong. But it is clear that they've had to shift their strategy. Their strategy was just stay behind the scenes. Don't put walls out there. Don't put Kamala out there. Let the media and the surrogates do all the talking. That was their strategy. Now it's clear that they're like, okay, you got to go out and do shows. And they want more debates and stuff. That's not indicative of a group that thinks we got this shit wrapped up. For example, why didn't Trump do any debates in the Republican primary? Because he knew, as did anyone who was remotely paying attention, that he had over a 90% chance of winning the primary without doing any debates. In other words, the debates could only hurt him. Now, as someone who supported both Vivek and DeSantis over Trump, I wanted to see him do the debates. I did. As much as I appreciate Trump, with all of his flaws for what he did in 2016 to 2020, I don't think he should be coronated. Maybe he was the best person for the job and did something unique 2016 to 2020. Does that mean he's the best person this time? Hardly matters now, but that's how I felt. But the point I'm trying to make is, why didn't Trump do those debates? Because he didn't have to. It only could hurt him. When I ran for office in a special election for Congress in 2019, I wanted to do every possible debate. I wanted to talk to every single possible person. Why? Because my strengths were debate, talking to people. My weakness was I have zero connections and name recognition. So I was throwing a Hail Mary. I knew I had a very little chance to win. So the Hail Mary was you talk to everyone and anyone. You debate at a moment's notice at any time. That was my strategy. The people that were way ahead of me, like the person that was favored, he had no incentive to debate me. Why would he? He's got it wrapped up. He can only harm himself. That's why Kamala Harris has changed her strategy. If the internal polling showed them up like 60-40 and she's just crushing it, she wouldn't be out doing these shows. Because there's only a chance you say something dumb and it harms you immensely. Look at Joe Biden's debate performance. Look at how disastrous that was for Biden. You don't want that moment. You don't want Kamala Harris to have that moment. And even though, as bad as Kamala Harris is, I don't think she has dementia. So I don't think she's going to have a moment exactly like Joe Biden did. But it's clear that it's a risk. Putting her in front of the cameras is a risk. She's not good. I have considered shaving the beard and keeping the mustache. My wife vetoes that idea. What's up, Tom Fuller? He says, Kamala is better off in the shadows, so's Trump. And to a degree, you're right. I think that Trump sometimes could be his own worst enemy. Though there's a difference. Trump certainly does events that benefits him. So, for example, Trump on this show with Schultz the other day, he sounds awesome. Trump, when he did Theo Vaughn's show, he sounds great. That doesn't hurt him. The problem with Trump is he steps on his foot when the media cycle's going good for him. Like, so after the assassination attempt, he gets on stage at the RNC and he goes way too long. If he would have shortened that 40 minutes and just wrote out that sympathy. So yeah, I agree. There are times where I think the best thing is Trump's team needs to be like, dude, don't say anything. The cycle's going good for you. But Trump's hit or miss. Kamala's just miss. She's not good. I don't know, and I'm just being flat out honest. I can't think of an event that Kamala Harris has done that's been really positive for her since she's been the candidate. Even with Biden, the floor was lower for Biden. Like, Biden, the floor is, he was forced out because he basically has dementia. But there were moments where Biden, when you'd be like, hey, that's good. Biden sounds good here. I didn't see Nelly. I heard that Nelly said that, but whatever. So the strategy, though, for Biden and Kamala, and I've said this, the best, at least as a Democrat, because you have all of these institutional advantages. The mainstream media is going to totally be for you. Before Elon bought all of social media, going to be for you. The algorithms on search engines like Google, they're all going to be in favor of you. Academia, all going to be in favor of you. Entertainment industry, the vast majority of them are going to be in favor of you. So the ideal candidate for Democrats is an empty suit. It's a corpse. That's the ideal candidate. Someone with zero personality, zero flaws. Just someone who was thought into the ether at the moment. That's it. That candidate wins the bulk of the time. And even to a lesser extent, it's true of Republicans. Our politics is so negative at this point, the majority of people are voting against someone and not for someone. That's the direction it's gone. So I've said this many times. When would be the ideal time to announce your candidacy, to be made the candidate? The closest possible to voting. Kamala Harris, can anyone doubt, maybe people will doubt this. I think that this is absolutely true, though. I'd argue with anyone with this. Kamala Harris's best days as the candidate was the first 2 weeks. There was enthusiasm. A lot of people felt that, especially Democrats felt that continuing to support Biden, which they knew deep down that they were lying, that Biden had mental health issues. They just hate Trump. So that was their guy. They had to stick it out with him. There was enthusiasm. It was like dead weight once he was ushered out. Woo! Kamala! It wouldn't matter. It could have been anyone. There was going to be that initial enthusiasm. If the election is same-day voting, we don't have this ridiculous fucking, mail-in voting like we have, but if it's same-day voting and it's 2 weeks after Kamala's named the candidate, she wins running away. Because there's not enough time for people to process her negatives. There's just not. So to me, it is a sign that the Democrats are not super confident that they're now putting her out there. Maybe if Tim Walz does better in that debate, Maybe they don't go out there as much. I disagree, Tom Follery. I agree, and you take polling with a grain of salt, but it seems that independents are breaking towards Trump quite heavily. I think that most moderates, not yourself, are you a moderate? You're left. I think that most moderates are looking at it like this, and I've said this for months. Even when it was Joe Biden, I think most moderates were saying, Biden, there's a little caveat, but we're saying, listen, I actually think the country is in a better place under Donald Trump. I think that my dollar went further. I think the border was more secure. I think we didn't see all these crazy fucking wars. How much do I give credit to that Trump? I don't know, but that's just the truth. But he's an asshole. He's very unlikable. Maybe he's a weird fucking threat to democracy. And so that's what they're weighing. I'll tell you someone who talks about this. Where am I going to go in my philosophy arc? Fat chance, man. Look, we all have philosophy, don't get me wrong, but I'm a redneck pragmatist. But I think that, like, if you look at someone like Adam from Sitch and Adam, Adam thinks, like, Trump's terrible, he's anti-democratic, but he's like, am I supposed to vote against my pocketbook? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Because I think Kamala Harris's policies since she's been there and that she's suggesting are a disaster. I think that's where most undecideds are. I think they agree with Trump. Obviously, each individual is different, but I think in the aggregate, most of them agree. Look, most of the policies that were there under Trump, I favored that was there under Biden-Harris, but he's an unlikable prick. And that's where you make your decision. And I think that Trump sometimes harms himself. That's why I said, like, I think that Trump needs to cut back on the Trumpianisms somewhat. That's my recommendation. Like, I don't know. Yes, you still need to encourage your base to get out there. But, like, if Trump comes out and he's like, yo, fuck Rosie O'Donnell, she's a fat pig. Like, yeah, there's a lot of people that are going to be like, ha, yeah, woo, that's the Trump we know. But weren't 99.9% of those people already voting for Trump? Like, who does that attract? Fires up your people that were already fired up and going to vote. But a woman out there that's like, I try to buy groceries for my kids. I'm fucking struggling. I think Trump said some regrettable shit in the past, but I'm willing to give him another chance. Does that help get her? I don't know. I don't think so. And I think that's why the debate was uniquely disastrous for Tim Walz. The strategy that's being employed is, from the Harris-Walz campaign, is we're the party of change, which they're fucking losing, which Kamala Harris just shit all over, and that Trump's this unique threat. So when you see image after image and audio clip after audio clip of Walz being like, yeah, I agree with most of this, when Vance is talking, if you're making your decision just from that debate, are you thinking like, oh, Vance and Trump are these crazy, out-of-control lunatics? The only issue that maybe you think that's abortion and January 6th, which Walz was weak on. Hell, I could have argued that side much better than Walz. So they're not doing good. And so now they're out there. That's what they're doing. Well, shit. Now we got to go out there. We got to clean this up. And what I'm talking about is this. How is it, what happened when Kamala Harris has asked this question on The View? Again, like, if I talked to Tom Follery a week ago, who I don't think's voting for Trump, or P.F. Jung, who I'm not sure is voting for Trump, people that I consider intelligent folks, even if we have disagreements, and I asked them, like, give me your thoughts on what is the Kamala Harris campaign? Like, what are they going for? I'm betting at some point they would have said, well, they're trying to make the case for, we're going to change. It's time for something different. We're going to change things. And they would have said they're making the case that Trump's a threat for democracy. That's what they would have said. They can't replace Kamala at this point. It's too late. In for a penny, in for a pound. So, given that that's clearly a big part of their strategy, how can you not be prepared for the most basic of questions about that? Oh, if things would be different under you and you've been there for 4 years, can you give us some example of things you would have done different than Biden? Yeah, we're not Trump. That's the other thing. How are you not prepared for that? The way I see it, there's only 3 feasible explanations. The one is that her team prepared her for an answer and she just froze. I don't believe that. I don't think that that's likely. It's possible, but that her team was like, look, here's what you say. These specific policies I would have done differently. And she just froze when she's asked that. She wasn't ready for it on The View. Maybe she was ready for it if Trump brought it up in the debate, but then it skipped her mind because she thought, oh, softball questions on The View. But I don't believe that, because I think that one thing you could say about Kamala Harris is she's very good at regurgitating sort of talking points. She's fine at that. She's fine at that at the debate with Trump. That's why I think she won the debate with Trump. She probably was coached vigorously to continue to debate Trump. Say things about his crowd size. Say things, personal attacks to him. Give a bland answer, just an empty platitude to the question, and then attack Trump on some irrelevant issue, and Trump took the bait. So it's clear that she's able to listen to her team and re-articulate what they're saying. That's a different skill than actually being able to talk off the cuff and extemporaneously, but it's still a skill. I coached debate. I won't name any names in case any of my former debaters are watching. Some of the people I coached in debate weren't the most intelligent people. And yet, many times they succeeded quite frequently, because they were able to memorize a few talking points and then learn how to apply those to almost every situation. My strong suit was talking about the economy. You walk into a debate, your opponents are going to talk about the threat of war with China. You want to talk about the economy. Well, if the economy goes to shit, does that make it more likely or less likely that we have war with China? More likely. But let's say your opponents want to talk about systemic racism. Well, if the economy goes to shit, does that make it more likely or less likely that racism gets worse? More likely, right? So you found one argument that you're like, just hammer this home. Obviously, as you advance in levels of debate, that shit don't cut it. But at the lowest level, and let's be honest, unfortunately, even some of our presidential politics, we're talking lowest level. Kamala's capable of that. She would have been a fine debater for me at the novice level, because I'd been like, say this. She would have said it. So I don't believe that. I don't believe that Kamala Harris wasn't coached what to say, or was coached what to say and forgot. The second possibility is she was never coached. That her team never came up with an answer. How is that possible? I mean, that's wretched if that's the case. If Kamala Harris's campaign and the people that sort of coaching her didn't instruct her that, like, dude, the most basic question you're going to be asked is like, okay, if you're the candidate of change, what would you have done different than Biden? That's literally the most basic question. If that's the case, that the people running Kamala Harris's campaign never thought to address that with her, they should never work in politics again. They should never work for a campaign again. Now, take Trump versus Kamala here. I actually believe that, and this is my bias, but we'll see if you all agree with me or not. I think that Trump's team, it's the opposite. I think Trump's team, it's likely that they tell Trump, like, listen, man, continue to say it's about your record versus Harris-Biden record. But the problem is Trump just starts going off on tangents. So I think in that debate, probably the people that coach Trump for the debate are rolling their eyes like, God damn it, Trump. We talked about what to do here. But Trump's Trump. He's just going to fly off the cuff. Kamala's like the opposite. I think she'll listen to what our coaches say. So is that what happened, that our coaches didn't tell her? I mean, I don't know what to say other than that's brutal. And Part of it has to do with, I think, incompetence of some of these people. But I think the other part of it's complacency. You just say, who gives a shit? It's never going to come up because the media loves us, so no one's ever going to ask us. And we'll be able to get away with it. We'll be able to run out the clock on this election season. And because we've barely done any interviews, and we've chosen to go in places like The View and Howard Stern, no one's ever going to ask us. And so they just didn't do the bare minimum? That's possible. But there's a third possibility which I find to be the most intriguing. And we'll see what you all think of this. And there's evidence for this outside the scope of just this question. To me, the third possibility is they're afraid of Joe Biden. I think that that's maybe the most likely scenario here. Well, she forgot would be portion one. Portion one is she was coached to say this shit and she forgot. I don't think that's likely. Portion two is she was never coached on this. Scenario three is they're well aware that this is going to be an issue, but they're walking on eggshells because they don't want to piss off Joe Biden because they're afraid of him. And I think that's a possibility, which is hilarious. Because I think that Joe Biden's been throwing some shade at Kamala Harris. I think he's pissed. I do. I think he absolutely thinks he would have beat Trump. And he absolutely feels that he was unjustly forced out. And I think that he sees the internal polling and sees that Harris isn't doing as well as he was, or he feels that he was doing as good, if not better, than Harris before the debate performance, and he feels that the reason that things got so bad after the debate was the media started to attack him. People like CNN and Jake Tapper and all these people in the media were attacking him for this. And he feels like it was an all hands on deck to force him out. And now he's saying, told you so. And so you see Biden doing things like, DeSantis cooperated with me. You see Biden scheduling press appearances at the exact same time that Kamala's doing things are airing. And I think internally, there is a feeling amongst the people that are running Harris's campaign like, we have to try to find line here. We can't come out and throw Joe Biden under the bus. We can't. Because even if Biden doesn't publicly say anything, his surrogates will start to put shit out there about Kamala Harris. So just hypothetically for a second, agree that that's what could be happening. What do you say then if you're Kamala Harris and you're asked, well, what would you have done different than Biden? Because anything you say that you would have done different is basically an admission that you think Biden fucked up. You can't say, well, I would have never rescinded the executive orders on the border. I wouldn't have done that. Really? So you think Biden made a mistake? I wouldn't have done the Inflation Reduction Act. I would have done things differently. Really? You see the problem? So you have to be like, well, we think Biden did great. I was right there with him. Biden was out there. He said it last week in one of his interviews. He again repeated, Kamala, yeah, she was there with me, making all these decisions. It's like he's pressing the issue. He thinks he did great. What's little left in Biden's mind thinks he's an amazing president and that his record is great. So he's like, I ain't gonna leave these shitheads bury me that say that my presidency wasn't good. It was great. But the problem is, the American people don't feel that way. Now, I understand a Biden surrogate's gonna say, but actually, the things that they're feeling are being hyper-pushed by the opposition, they're lies, they were created by Donald Trump, etc., etc. All that matters is, at this point, 20-something days outside an election, the American people ain't buying it. And the Democrats know. The Harris campaign knows. And again, all the gaslighting from the people I debate, they know it. But they're pretending, no, it's great, it's great. Trump is so unlikable and the deck is stacked so much against him that if they're right, the economy is great and the border is great and foreign policy is great, Kamala or Biden win in a landslide. Thanks so much, Intel Wild, for the $5 super chat. Keep up the great work, sir. No Diddy. Thank you, I will. Yeah, and he doesn't want them dunking on him. So what's she going to say? Now, if I'm coaching Kamala Harris, if I'm in her campaign, I'm like, dude, you got to come up with reasons that you're going to be different. You could hedge it. You could say, look, Biden, fantastic president, making the best decisions. We as a team, we're collectively making these decisions. There are things, though, that I would have done differently if I was in charge. It's not that Joe Biden wasn't great. He was. But given the knowledge we had at the time, I understand why he made these decisions. But here's some things I would have done differently. Bobby C., thanks for the $2 super chat. Will Biden be the October surprise? No. They can't remove Kamala. It's too late for that. Will he be the October surprise as far as saying something to sabotage Kamala Harris? Maybe. It could go further there. And you can already see from allegedly the Woodward book coming out, some of the quotes. Biden's getting a little feisty when it comes throwing Obama under the bus. Well, as Obama in 2014 didn't handle Russia seriously. And he was throwing some shade at Kamala in that book, allegedly, as well. He may half-off speech blast off of Kamala's, particularly if she loses. If Kamala Harris would lose, Biden's going to have the biggest I told you so moment ever. Everybody knows it. Now, you might be a Democrat and saying, but Biden, you would have lost worse. And that may very well likely be true. I think after Biden's debate performance, and given that Biden's track record is not liked by the American people, that he was probably amongst the weakest of candidates possible to field for the Democrats. Pretty much anyone would have been an upgrade, including Kamala Harris. That's my belief. If I was choosing as a Trump voter to pick my opponent, Biden would have been top of the list. Harris would have been near the top, but she wouldn't have been. I would be more afraid of Harris than Biden. Now, they still could have drugged Biden across the finish line. I'm not saying it was an automatic win. I'm just saying he was the weakest because his mental issues and the fact that how can he run as the candidate of change? And his record's not liked by the American people. It's just not on issues like the economy. But Kamala's weak as well because she could be connected to that current record, and she's not an impressive person. She's not. And she's very unlikable, which is evident from the fact of how poor she did in the primaries. So, well, of course, that's true, Wes. They want someone, the people that run the show want someone that they could continue to run the show. And in that way, Joe Biden, a man with cognitive issues, basically doesn't know where he's at half the time, is an ideal candidate. And someone like Kamala Harris with like zero real convictions or pushback that will do anything for power, that will totally be an empty suit for you, is also an ideal candidate. Someone like RFK is the worst candidate for you because you're afraid that he'll have personal opinions that say, no, I'm not going to listen to you people. So, interestingly enough, I think Kamala's in a difficult position. And I don't envy the Democrat argument right now. Like, they're also in a difficult position regarding Israel-Palestine. They can't come out too strongly in favor of Israel, else many radical left-wing people in their party will be like, So they have to like be sort of vacuous and say, well, we're recommending Netanyahu, don't really, we're giving humanitarian aid to Palestine, but still Hamas is bad. They have to try to walk that tightrope. And now it's like this second tightrope of like, well, you can't really criticize Joe Biden as far as his record. I mean, even then, they have difficult. Explain to the American people why Joe Biden doesn't have the cognitive ability to run for president, but he's been president. Why didn't they force him out of the office with the 25th Amendment? Well, he's good enough for the next 4 months, but not good enough to campaign? What? This is what happens when it's so inorganic. This is what happens when it's so astroturfed. You end up with these crazy, like, well, we have to say Israel's good, but Palestine's good, and Israel could be bad. And Joe Biden's cognitive ability, he couldn't run for, it was good up until the debate, and then, we're not saying that we forced him out, but it would be better if Kamala Harris there, but he's still good enough to be president. And his record's really good, but we're the group of change. So it's very interesting to watch sort of what's going on. Now, all of this is a moot point when it comes to things like ballot harvesting. Who gives a shit? Who cares? Because everything we're talking about here is only going to affect moderates and undecideds. 45% on each side's locked in. So you're basically talking about the remaining 10% and basically only in swing states. So who gives a shit? Really, at the end of the day. But it is interesting. And the Democrats are certainly worried. They're not as confident as they were in 2016. And they shouldn't be anyways. That's a stupid way to look at things. Like stupid to be that. I mean, I don't know what to say. Hillary Clinton, for all the things you could complain about her, if you're a Democrat, the thing you should be complaining the most about her is her sheer arrogance and hubris. And the people that were surrounding her. To think that they had it in the bag. I agree, ballot harvesting's gross. So I'm not, when I say the problems that Democrats have, all I'm saying is they're worried. They're not going to just roll over and die. They got plans. But if they were super confident, like, we got this locked up, Kamala Harris wouldn't be out doing this press tour. She wouldn't. And she keeps screwing herself. Has any of these press tours been good for her? Now, to be quite honest, I watched the View one. I did not watch, nor have I ever heard of the show. What was the show she did? My wife's heard of it. I was like, have you ever heard of the show? She's like, yeah. The woman's podcast, Call Her Daddy. Is that what it's called? I'd never heard of it, but apparently it's like a humorous, sort of like slice of life type podcast. Let me defend Kamala Harris for a moment here. I don't have a problem with her. Like, I know people are like, oh, you're going to a show where they talk about blowjobs? So? Yeah, and? Sure, you should be trying to go on shows where you could reach a different audience. That's why I don't have a problem with going on Theo Vaughn's show. Or the Schultz show. How do I feel about Tim Walz saying they want to get rid of the Electoral College? The Democratic Party, as always, is exactly what they accuse their opponents of. They accuse their opponents of, you'll try to use the DOJ to go after us. That's exactly what they're doing to Trump and their opponents. They'll say, you'll violate norms. That's what they're doing. They want to end the filibuster. They want to pack the Supreme Court. They want to end the Electoral College. Again, Mike Benz talks about this a lot. When they say democracy, they don't literally mean the will of the people. What they mean is, we want our issues to be the ones that are in control and our institutions. And if the people's vote and the system that we have set up is anathema to that, then we reject it. Yeah, I saw the 60 Minutes shit. And again, she did do 60 Minutes. That's right. I did see that interview. What a debacle. First off, her answers are shit. But the bigger story is how these institutions are corrupt, including the mainstream media. 60 Minutes at one point was considered basically the flagship of sort of television journalism shows. or interview shows. What would you put higher than that? The newspaper, you would say the highest was the New York Times. When it comes to like sort of television interview shows, I would put 60 Minutes amongst the top. Maybe Meet the Press. Harbargnar, super chat $9. Yo, Rob, love the combo you had about the bipartisan immigration bill. I got educated about the slimy details of it that Democrats tiptoe around. What should I research to fight the Dems on the economy? Well, at this point, to fight the Dems on the economy, there's not much you need to do. Just ask people this. There's a lot you could look into, right? Like the numbers constantly being fudged and then readjusted months later. But the important thing to do is just ask people. I remember I told you all, like one thing I did, you could look at the inflation numbers yourself, but me and my wife went back and we looked at, let's see if I still have this. Somewhere here. Is that it? You can't see because we wrote it in a font that you could barely see. That was receipts that we took, the last receipt we could find for when Trump was in office, to current. Thanks so much, Lecture Fan. Really appreciate it, man. Hope everything's going great. Lecture Fan, I saw, put that he stopped streaming for a week and the Harris campaign sort of vomited all over himself. So I love listening to Lecture Fan, but maybe we should all be fundraising to give Lecture Fan like the next month off. Because if we're superstitious, we'd say the less Lecture Fan streams, the more the Harris campaign implodes on itself. So, just kidding. I love listening to Lecture Fan. You guys should subscribe. Those of you on YouTube, if you don't go to Twitch very often, Lecture Fan is sort of the original conservative streamer on Twitch, which is a cesspool of degenerate lefties. So to see someone trailblazing going on that platform, I think is very cool. I've always respected Lecture Fan for that. But what I was saying is, so you can see from here, like, we just took the receipts of 90% lean ground beef, Beneful dog food, bagels, eggs, gallon of 2% milk, 9-ounce salad kit, a pound of strawberries, red seedless grapes, Italian bread, 5 pounds of frozen chicken breast. And just from our looking at that, it was a 27% increase over the last receipt we had when Trump was in office to now. You don't need to research. People know this. People know. They absolutely know that their dollar's not going as far, that the economy's not great. They know it. There are things you could look into, like the job numbers. The vast majority of jobs are government jobs, which isn't sustainable. Many of those jobs that are being created are part-time jobs as opposed to full-time jobs. Almost all of the jobs that are created have been going to people that are not native-born citizens. Purchasing power has remained stagnant, if not decreased. Or, I'm sorry, real wage growth. Thanks so much, Brad. I appreciate the sub. A real lawyer rating. Don't worry, we'll talk about lawyers later. So. But that's the position that Kamala Harris finds herself. So these interviews have been disastrous. But the real story here is CBS clowning themselves. Yes, they're clowning themselves with this Ta-Nehisi Coates stuff. I'm not going to talk about that tonight. But they're clowning themselves in that they're edits. And they're doing what we've always known, which are that the mainstream media, the vast bulk of them, are merely propagandists for the Democratic Party. And it's been that way for a long time. It's certainly gotten more transparent with the election of Donald Trump in 2016. Harbargnar again. Thanks for the $10. Sorry for derailing the convo. Let's talk about Harris falling apart in 60 minutes. Amala something, I don't know how to pronounce that, did a video on Kamala's lies. She's not doing well in the polls either. Yeah, she didn't do well. But again, I think the big story is how they were forced to edit, basically to pipe in an answer. And if it wasn't for X and the fact that Elon Musk bought it, none of us would know. None of us. All right, Arcar, I'll get to you in a second. None of us would know. So the fact that they're just blatantly lying, and again, these are people that would cheer, the people that are running 60 Minutes would cheer for the government's efforts to censor disinformation. And they'll blatantly lie to you like that. Just blatantly edit an answer that wasn't even there. All right, let's see what Arcor wants here. Now, I'm being generous because I was only taking calls tonight that wanted to debate me on something. So I don't know if Arcor wants to debate me on something, but we'll see. All right, Arcor, what's happening? Hey, doing good. What's happening? Oh, wait, 1 second. I got your audio off. Okay, sorry. What's up? You said it's been 2 weeks. Sorry to cut you off. I didn't have your audio on, so.
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, it's been like 2 weeks. It probably was. I would like to have this conversation like 2 weeks ago when it was the Trump thing. Um, I just want to ask you, being honest, about how you feel now that you're in notice. Is everything going good? Like you need to vent a little bit.
About Trump?
No, no, no. Like you being on notice. Are
Oh,
you
we'll
okay?
talk about that later. But yeah, don't worry, we'll get to that. But yeah.
Yeah, I was so worried for you, man.
Of
Like,
course, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah,
yeah.
sucks to live your life on notice, but we'll talk about that a little. I figure we'll save that to the end. That way, people that are only concerned about politics and don't give a shit about my personal life, fake internet drama, can tune out if they want. But yeah, we'll get to that.
Well, I wanted to say that I think the Vance debate was great for Vance. He did really well.
Hmm.
I think we agree with that. So it's going to become like a very, I agree with you. I just want to say that I disagree a little bit with the Trump debate, not because Trump was amazing. I just think that Kamala didn't make any differentiation. Like,
She didn't,
uh,
right? But the problem is this, right? The reason that Trump loses the debate is the same reason that Vance wins the debate, because the debate is about setting an agenda that you want for the goals that you need to achieve. So it's possible that in a debate, both sides could do very well, because even if you look outside the scope of an individual judging who won the debate, both sides accomplished what they needed to accomplish. What Kamala Harris wanted to accomplish in that debate was sort of to point out that Trump is sort of unhinged, that he is a danger, and she didn't do that. And then also then what she needed to do sort of defensively was to identify herself, differentiate herself from Joe Biden, and explain to the American people what her policies would be. She fails miserably on both of those. She doesn't do a particular good job on either. The problem is on the former of that, Trump does it himself. He comes across as unhinged, he comes across as unfocused, unpresidential, and people that are watching, that's one of the goals that Trump had. His defensive goal is to come across as sort of being someone who's presidential, who is a leader, who is able to stay on focused, and then his other goal was to identify who Kamala Harris really is, because she's been hiding. Trump failed on both of those miserably. So while you are right that Kamala Harris did not do staggeringly well, Trump lost the debate. He lost the debate objectively in that he couldn't restrain himself. He was constantly baited. And he lost the debate strategically because he was unable to accomplish even the most basic, except one or two lines where he was like, look at my record versus look at hers. J.D. Vance was phenomenal because he did exactly what Trump should have done. Over and over again, to the point where Walz didn't even try to push back, he labeled Kamala Harris as the current regime. She cannot
yeah.
be the candidate of change because she is the current regime. And that regime, if you compare it to Trump's regime, is far inferior to the majority of the American people. That's all Trump had to do. He failed spectacularly. I don't know what to say. So, in my opinion, still to this day, I don't even think it was close. The Kamala Harris, I would give her about a C, and I'd give Trump a D to a D plus. I think that Kamala Harris won the debate.
I think it was, in my opinion, I think it was kind of a tie. I think he got baited into some of the actions. I think his closing statement was the best part of the
It
debate.
was.
When it comes to Trump, he gets to the point there where they are the guys in power. Why haven't they done? Why haven't they done? Why haven't they do anything? It's So I think that was like the best part of his debate. I thought it was kind of a tie. He did like fail in a way to convey all of it. I still, in my bias is that he wins because I like Trump more than Kamala, and he has some singers that I liked. Obviously, that's my bias, but I would objectively say that they probably tied because he didn't do what he failed in a sense of getting to the point where he was like not fall for the trap that was set by Kamala, but Kamala fails at not giving like not differentiating herself at all from the current regime.
I just disagree. I don't know what more I could say on it. I don't think it helps. I'm really trying to move the ball forward. We just had a
Yeah,
tremendous performance from JD Vance. So to go back, and I have to be honest, I'm authentic. That's who I am. So I'm not going to lie and say, yeah, you're right. Now I think Trump won. I'm trying to move the
no,
ball forward and sort of helping Trump win. So kind of having me go back after the debate where we see Trump's side one-handedly and say, let me tell you again why Trump lost in his debate is really something that I'm gung-ho to do. I don't see what the relevance is now. I think that the big takeaway, as people in the chat are saying, was the bias moderation, sort of going into what we're talking about CBS right now, just how biased these mainstream media outlets are. I think that is the big story, and I thought that I correctly said that you would see a 2 to 3 week bounce for Kamala Harris that you would see in the polls, but I thought that it would be short term. We had a second debate in the form of the VP debate that would be fresh on everyone's mind closer to the election than the presidential debate, and the news cycle would shift so much that hardly would the Trump debate be on anyone's mind. So for me, it's strategically a mistake to go back to the Trump debate. I think that it's just reinforcing in people's mind what happened there. And I've also talked about this at great length. I don't know that I have anything more to add. I could repeat I know a lot of people disagreed with me on this, and that's fine. And I'm willing, particularly on the call-in shows, to talk to people, about whatever they want. And if they want to continue to say, I think you're wrong, I think Trump won, I'll repeat exactly what I said to you here, and I've said probably a dozen times as to why I think he lost. I just think he lost. I don't know. I don't particularly want to relitigate it, but if you would like, that's cool, I guess. I don't know what else to say.
I would prefer to move forward.
Okay.
I think one of the greatest stories that maybe have passed, but I think it's really bad for the current administration, is the FEMA and the North Carolina stuff that's going on. I don't know if you've read.
I followed some of it, yeah.
Yeah, they say that FEMA is like not having any funds, and I think that is extremely bad for the current administration.
It looks bad. Like, first is, it's hard to tell what's true because, unfortunately, there are people on all sides of the issue that want to muddy it. For example, the easiest way is how many pictures that we saw out of Hurricane Helene were AI generated. Now, that, to me, is a mistake, even if you're doing it because you think it will help your side, because whatever side that you're trying to help ends up making it look worse because you're generating something that there are real stories and real photos out there that you didn't need to generate. Each individual story, for example, is it true? Is it true that FEMA helicopters flew too low and they shredded a bunch of resources that private people have gained? Probably, maybe, I don't know. Is it true that every example you hear of FEMA turning private people away that are trying to help is true or not? Probably, maybe, but I don't know. It's difficult for me to know when it comes to stories on the ground. Do I put it past FEMA? No. But in general, here's the problems that I think that we could prove that we should focus on. One, there is a double standard. When it came to Hurricane Katrina under George Bush, all of the perceived failures and the people that suffered were put on him and put on the Republican Party. So anyone, Joe Biden, Democrat, or anyone else that wants to talk about how it's unfair to talk about how it's difficult and challenging, and so these people at FEMA are trying their best and we have to have some grace for them, are full of shit. They wouldn't have done the same if it occurred in Trump's administration, and we could see that by the fact that they blamed COVID on Trump. Every death of COVID, they tried to blame on Trump. Hell, Joe Biden even said that every act of violence that was occurring during the riots, the George Floyd riots, those were all occurring under Trump. So the idea that somehow the same people that wanted to blame everything COVID on Donald Trump, which probably cost him the 2020 election, now want to say, well, when we see these disastrous photos and images and situations that are occurring in North Carolina, we shouldn't put that at the feet of Joe Biden. Could kiss my ass. Secondly, it is true that FEMA has spent shitloads of money on other priorities. Now, is it true that those are separate pools of money? Yeah. Is it true that Republicans probably haven't funded, or that you could put the thumb on it, Republicans, that they haven't done things such as funding for disaster relief as much as maybe Democrats would like? Well, yeah, but that's always the case of that. The Democrats are always like spend. So they'll be like, we should have spent $100 trillion on disaster relief and $200 trillion on illegal immigrants. And that would have solved everything. Right. But simultaneously, they want to say that they're not responsible for inflation. So when you're the party, and by the way, both sides do this to some degree, where you just say, well, just keep printing money and keep spending. See, you should have left us print more money and spend more money. And now look, this one unique situation is there. It's sort of bullshit. The idea that they spent so much in FEMA then has on their website that their priorities are things like diversity, giving things out based on equity, etc. It shows that they, even if they have the proper funds, are not ready for a mission like this because they as an institution are ideological, and their ideology isn't about doing what their first job is, which is providing disaster relief to people. I'm sure that part of that is why their lack of competence or their corruption is why they don't want independent private people going in doing stuff, because it makes them look bad. And I believe that they probably do hate people in Appalachia, which has something to do with it as well. But it's difficult to talk about this because these specifics I don't know. I'm working so much, it's difficult for me to fact check. Did you see this guy's TikTok? He said X. Maybe? It's hard for me to look into those levels of the specifics.
I'm referring directly to the Elon Musk tweets. You think he would be lying if
Who?
Musk? Because the one who said that there were problems with FEMA and the ones that were like creating most of the problems for the relief was Musk directly on
I don't
X.
think that. Do I think Musk is directly lying? No. Do I think Musk is uniquely informed to know when he reposts someone who does a 2-minute video that says, look at this shit that happened here, that he independently verified it? No. I don't think that
Well,
he's in a position that's necessarily better than most other people to do that.
He was saying directly from his team, like he sent engineers from Tesla and from other places, and he was like trying to deliver the Starlinks and stuff. And he was like, well, we're being blocked directly by FEMA and they're annoying.
I mean, sure, I didn't see any of that. What I saw was Musk, like, troubling if true, and then he would link someone else. I didn't see Elon Musk say, I directed these resources, I sent them in as professionals, FEMA said, get the fuck out of here. I haven't seen that. Maybe he did say that? Do I think he would be directly lying? Probably not. So maybe that is true. Zoo Phillips says there, I think that the argument that you're going to hear from the other side is, listen, we can't just have people going in with their own force saying, we're going to take care of this, because what happens is these people aren't trained professionals, and it actually makes the situation worse, because we're trying to have professionals in there that this is their job, and we can't do that when there are other people on the ground. Similarly, it would be like, let's say there is a fire in my neighborhood, and a bunch of my cool neighbors decide they're going to show up with hoses, like, get the fuck out of here, fire department, we're going to take care of this. The fire department would be like, no, you're harming things. You're actually an impediment to us doing our job because you're there. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I think FEMA's shit. Probably private people would do a better job, but that's the argument they're going to make. They're going to make the argument, well, we didn't kick, which I'm taking this with a huge grain of salt because I haven't seen Elon Musk say that he personally sent engineers there to solve this problem. I haven't seen that. But if he did, and they did turn them away, that's going to be their argument. Their argument's going to be, well, we handle things better. You needed to go through the proper chains, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying I agree with that argument, but that's what they're going to say, you know.
All right. Yeah.
But I don't know, like, again, it's troubling. Like, certainly the reaction there, it's fair game to, I think, talk about the reaction and how people were being overlooked, just like it was East Palestine, Ohio, with the train derailment, just like it was with the Maui fires. Remember, it was the Democrats when it came to Hurricane Katrina, and it was the Democrats when it came to COVID that wanted to say things that are sort of natural occurring disasters like this, the gloves are off, any sort of diminishment anything that you could point out to the reaction of that was detrimental or wasn't as good as possible, then you lay at the feet of the president. That was their strategy. So I have no problem none doing it. The specifics of, well, we have one pool of money for this and another pool, bullshit. If they wanted to, they could have, and Tom Cotton did a good job of this. Joe Biden could have said, listen, we're going to request funds be sort of moved around temporarily for Hurricane Helene, et cetera, for the victims of it. They chose not to do that. Instead, they chose to say, well, Republicans should have pushed for a bigger budget. So,
yeah.
But
okay.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. If you have more to talk about, we could. I'll probably be doing a call-in show tomorrow. So.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not sure that I will be able to. Like,
yeah, of course. If you can't, no problem.
Show, last time I was taking care of my kid, so.
Yeah, of course, man. I totally get that. So, but thanks for calling in. I always appreciate it, man.
Yeah, have a good one, Rob.
All right, we'll see you. Yep. But yeah, I was planning on talking more about the hurricane stuff and that level of it in another day, but that's fine. I'm on notice. How can I be calling? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, Zoo Phillips. I get. It's easy to say anyone who wants to volunteer should clearly be allowed to volunteer, but some people might not know what they're doing, and I don't have a problem in theory of the federal government being like, look, we can't just let anyone in here. We can't. Now, should FEMA be doing a better job of the people that like are professionals and are actually doing things, working with organizations that know what they're doing and working with them? Sure. But yeah, FEMA does suck. Yeah, and then Kamala Harris putting the tweet out like, we're giving money to... Again, it's always America last. They don't give a shit. Thousands upon thousands of dollars go to illegal immigrants to keep put up in cushy hotels and cities. Goes to Ukraine, goes to Lebanon. It's always America last. Optically, it looks like shit for the Harris-Biden administration. All right, what was I talking about? Just checking something real quick. Oh, I know. I thought this would be fun to look at. Maybe. If I find this. No? Well, crap. I thought my audience would like this. We'll get more into the... There it is. Let's do some more like stupid drama. This is politic adjacent though. Arcor, you put the post up there? I didn't see it. So I saw this video going around of Conor from CounterPoints. Conor, who is CounterPoints, I guess that's the name of his show. And it was posted by Progressive Victory. And they're going to show you this video, this conservative. It's a conservative. Huh? And he's gonna tell you why Trump sucks, right? Let's do it. Yeah, check out this conservative. He's gonna tell you why Trump sucks.
I like republicanism, I like conservatism, and by the way, I like fiscal conservatism. I think that the government should be efficient. However, one of the things that I think that the fiscal conservatives, who are a member of my party, have forgotten is the fact that profit and efficiency are not the only thing that matter. As a matter of fact, the EPA was created by Richard Nixon, a Republican. Part of the call of conservatism is stewardship, taking care of what you have. And so while I might agree that there is probably bloat and inefficiency that could be taken care of in better ways than the federal government currently does, what I don't want to do is I don't want to hand a hatchet to an insane person and then have that person hack at the federal government to the profit of people who don't care about stewardship. They don't care about environmental stewardship. They don't care about social stewardship. They don't care about their communities. They only care about the bottom dollar. So no, bump these people is what I would say. But that just points again to how Donald Trump is a lunatic who should not be handed a hatchet to take to the federal government or appoint sycophants.
Great point. Progressive Racy says, Donald Trump's a lunatic. Republican explains why he can't vote in good conscience for Trump despite being fiscally conservative. Well, that's it, man. Yeah, thanks, Conservative Conor. Just saw you posted that. That's it, man. That conservative did it. By the way, just curious. Go back here for a second. Nowhere in that video, nor in Progressive Victory's little tweet there, conspicuously absent is the fact that they pay him. Isn't that weird? Don't you think that would have been worth? Oh, by the way, the conservative that's going to tell you, we pay him. We pay him money. Weird. They forgot to mention that. And that's strange. Because the way it comes across is, well, this is just some conservative that we saw talking about this. You know, this to me, the arguments he's making here goes back to sort of an old Milton Friedman sort of, why is it considered more ethical for a bunch of people that didn't earn money to take yours and decide to divvy it out? Why isn't that considered greedy? For the businessman to say, I want to work and make a bunch of money, we say that's greedy. But for the government to say, we want to take a bunch of people's money and then divvy it out as we want, that's not greedy? Why? Why does Conor think that people that maybe Trump would appoint, like maybe Elon Musk or Vivek Ramaswamy or a litany of other people that want to slash regulations, why is it default? They're only doing that for their personal financial benefit. And yet, the people that are put at agencies like the EPA, and we all assume that they're good stewards, all of those people that are put there, they really just want to help. They're not in it for personal benefit whatsoever. The people at the EPA, the people that are bloating the EPA. No, they're all good people. They wouldn't do things for their bottom line and dollar. Fuck you. I again remind you, and I like Conor, don't get me wrong. He took his 30 pieces of silver. Good for him, man. Seems like a good dad. Take that money that you're getting, the Progressive Victory Pack that you're selling out for. Take that money and fucking go have a good time with your family. Cool by me. I don't give a shit. Fine. I still wish him well. I do. To me, him being a good husband and father, which by all appearances is the case, clearly you don't really know, but my gut feeling is he's a good father. I mean, a good husband or boyfriend or whatever. I don't know if he's married. I don't really give a shit about that. Seems like a likable guy. That, I swear to God, I'm not making this up. That's more important to me than his political stance. So he wants to sell out. Fine. I don't wish him ill. Good for you. But you did sell out. You did. You're a conservative that's working for Progressive Victory Pack. Not just to help Democrats win, including down ballot, but to make them more progressive. That's what you're doing. So when your bona fides put out there is, Republican explains why you can't good conscience vote for Trump despite being fiscally conservative. Yeah. Sorry if I don't take that with a grain of salt, Mr. Willing to sell out that position to help progressives win for some pieces of silver. Sorry, dude. So, just thought that was interesting. Very interesting. Sent me a link on Discord for the Musk tweet. Okay. Musk says, SpaceX engineers are trying to deliver Starlink terminals and supplies to devastated areas in North Carolina right now, and FEMA is both failing to help and won't let others help. This is unconscionable. They just took this video a few hours ago where you can see the level of devastations. FEMA wouldn't let them land to deliver critical supplies. My blood is boiling. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. In general, that sounds really bad. I think in general, FEMA's doing a terrible job. Is there an argument that FEMA would make, even if they're doing a fantastic job, would they say, like, listen, what the fuck? We can't just leave anyone with a private helicopter in here, like, trust me, I have supplies! Like, I don't know. But yeah, I'm sure. Zoo Phillips says, I don't think you're a sellout. But you did subscribe to me because I seem like a nice guy. Well, thank you. Well, in fairness, sometimes I'm up here cursing and swearing and my kid might be able to hear. So I'll refrain from... No one's saying anyone's a perfect parent, but... And I've gone back and forth. You know, to me, Conor's low point was when he freaked out because... He said, you know, Mad Dog Mattis, it's just the warrior poet, Mad Dog Mattis. He said all this shit about Trump after, you know, the George Floyd riots outside the White House. You know, an actual coup, an actual insurrection where they attacked buildings and set them on fire outside the White House, attempting to break into the White House. And Mad Dog Mattis was pissed off, that Trump suggested using the National Guard. He was furious about it. And then we went back and forth on a debate about it, and then he took to X and said he couldn't believe someone like me that considers myself libertarian adjacent would recommend allowing U.S. troops to deal with these rioters, when really that's the place of the police and the National Guard. That's what Conor said. And it's like, you dumb shit. That's what I said. That the National Guard should have been deployed. And then you're literally like, you know who should have... Rob's outrageous. How dare he suggest the National Guard should have been deployed? In reality, it should have been the job of the National Guard. Good one. I do not have RobGPT shirts yet. How far have we gone in the show? An hour 47. We can get into RobGPT shit. So, the saga continues. Dun, 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 dun. Wait, before I go any further, someone needs to scowl at me. So, for those of you who don't know, I was put on notice by Pisco, the lawyer, and I do use quotation marks there. And so, if you want to see a humorous stream, the last time I streamed had a couple of drinks, a little Cavassier, did a little singing, a little rapping, and talked about how devastated I was that I was put on notice. Pisco even called into the show. What is all this drama about? It's about, I'll make it as short as possible. Months ago, I was talking to Pisco. He thought he had a dog shit argument. I put a video up where I put the word lawyer in quotation marks. He was butthurt about that, said that was basically tantamount to defamation because that was me saying that he's not really a lawyer. That's bullshit. That's not what I was saying. I was saying it was a bullshit argument. I put it in as just a title for a video. I didn't think it was a big deal. Later, we stopped interacting with each other over it because he was that butthurt about it, which is fucking laughable because Pisco's called me every name under the book. I've called him many names, and Pisco calls other people names all the time, particularly on places like X. I don't give a shit about it. It's great. It's fun. I don't mind it at all. As long as you're not making fun of someone's family, like their wife, their kids. I don't make fun of people's relationships. I don't really make fun of people's looks and shit like that unless they start shit with me. I don't give a shit. The names and stuff. And I tell Pisco that regularly, publicly, and I've said it in private. I think that he makes a mistake of attacking people on X, like Dave Portnoy or the editor for the Washington Examiner, that maybe he would have a chance that's interacting with him to actually do a video with or a debate or something, but instead he just starts talking shit on them, and they're going to be like, who the fuck is this guy? We don't know him. We're not going to deal with this guy. I think it's a mistake. Dealing with someone like me, he could be like, Rob, you fat fuck, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't bother me in the least bit. I'll give it right back. It's a different dynamic. That's all I'm trying to tell him. So I mentioned when he was going after this editor at the Washington Examiner, I'm like, again, Pisco, I think you're making a mistake going at people this hard for like personal insults and shit. And by the way, why are you attacking his career, saying he works for a shit rag and that you're surprised they hired him as editor? You're shocked because he's apparently bad at it. Didn't you get all butthurt when I put the word lawyer in quotation marks? And he doubles down and he put me on notice. And he said he could sue me, but I'm broke, so he wasn't going to sue me. That's what he said. Okay. Sure, great, Grant. So he put me on notice. So I did a whole stream. I thought it was funny. I did a blow-off stream like, oh, shit, I'm on notice. Woo! So we had a fun stream with it. Whatever. And I had shit going on with my family that weekend, so. Now, I'm going to give you a little inside baseball, right? What went on since then. I'm not going to bring up the post. You can go follow my thread on X. Follow Pisco's threads, whatever. After that, what happened? By the way, Pisco's audience is basically just a slice of Destiny's audience. They think that shit's great. Yeah, sue him. Sue his ass. Put him on notice. The only reason he's not suing Rob's because Rob's broke. Okay. The term on notice is very interesting, right? Because it does have legal ramifications. Now, I'm no lawyer, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I am, but it does seem to be a very specific legal term that's sort of not really a cease and desist, but in the lines of that. That you're letting someone know, I am accusing you of doing something, defamation in this case. So this is my official request before a lawsuit was filed to stop doing that. He was threatening me. That's what he's doing. That's what him putting me on notice is. He's saying, you're on notice. I will choose not to sue you, but I could. And I'm only choosing to not sue you because I don't think you have much money. Okay? Got it? I have a real life friend who happens to be an attorney who texted me the next day and was like, who the fuck's this guy? Is he really a lawyer? I was like, yeah, I assume so. And he's like, do you happen to know where he practices law? And I had no idea where my friend, who is a lawyer, I was like, I think New York. And he sends me the sort of ethical code in New York. And he's like, 31B. It is an ethics violation to frivolously threaten a lawsuit. He's like, if this guy keeps giving you shit, you should bring that up. Okie dokie. So me and Pisco continue to go back and forth a little. And then I said, oh, and what my lawyer friend said was, you'd need his real name to file an ethics complaint. Now, spoiler alert, to spoil the end of it, I would not file an ethics complaint for something like this in a million years. And my friend, who's a lawyer, is like, if I were you, dude, I wouldn't file the complaint. And even if you did, nothing will happen. But it is, in his mind, an ethics violation. And he's like, I'm tired of these fucking tough guy lawyers that trying to threaten people. You know, oh, I'm putting you on notice. Fuck that. It's bullshit. This guy deserves to eat a little shit. So I mentioned, okay, Pisco. As he kept it up, I said, I'm going to file an ethics violation. Ethics complaint. And all of a sudden, his sense of humor about the situation, oh, it went right out the window. Oh boy, it wasn't super fun time anymore. And all the DGG people that were more than happy that I was put on notice, whoops! All of a sudden, how dare Rob? How dare he? Threatening legal action? This is ridiculous. How dare he bring someone's livelihood into it? Intel Wild, thanks for the super chat for $5. Rob, I'm putting you on notice. No! Damn, on notice again. Here's the truth. Again, I don't dislike Pisco. I don't wish him well. I'm not going to file a fucking ethics complaint for something so stupid. But I have every right to. And he is threatening frivolous lawsuits. He's a fucking tough guy. He's a crybaby. That's his shtick. I'm an attorney. You're on notice. This is defamation and blah, 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 blah. And I could file a lawsuit. Fuck you. He likes that feeling. That's the big... I'm a big man. I'm a big man. I'll fucking threaten defamation suits. I'm Pisco. I'm a big man. Yeah, how you like that? Threaten bail. I'll threaten that shit. Yeah, I'm threatening it. Okay, big man. How's it feel when it's on the opposite end? How's that feel? He didn't sound like someone who was so confident that he had an open and shut case. This is laughable. Of course it's not frivolous. All of a sudden he was like, communications need to be between counsel now. Someone said, see, the big DGG comments were, yeah, fuck Rob. We always knew he was bad faith. I can't believe he would do this. Which they had no problem. Maybe you should sue him, Pisco, right? And then the other was, well, you deserve this, Pisco, because you stuck up for Rob with Destiny. And then Pisco's like, I know, I never should have, the piece of shit. See how that works? You see? I could sue you. You're on notice. This is defamation. Yay, says the Pisco audience, the DGGers. Yay, great. I say, okay. How about, I think this is frivolous and I want to file an ethics complaint. Oh my God! Can you believe he would threaten something like this? Now, the two differences are, I'd never fucking file an ethics complaint with something like this. I just wanted to let it go for 6 hours or so. Let Pisco stew in his own juices to see how maybe it makes other people feel when he's threatening legal actions, putting people on notice. How's that feel? That's number one. And number two is, unlike Pisco, there are no ethical obligations that a person could be under to file an ethics complaint. You can file an ethics complaint for any fucking reason. Intel Wild, thanks for the $10 super chat. That's another notice. Oh, shit. If I file an ethics complaint and it's unwarranted, I don't get punished. The board would just say, there's nothing here. Oh, Snip. Sure, if you want to talk about FEMA here in a bit, no problem. That's the point. And now I told Pisco, I'm not going to listen. all the sour grapes had people reach out to me in private, like, what's going on? What's this drama? You're both being childish. Yeah, I'm being childish to illustrate his fucking stupidity. I was also being childish when I was putting Pisco's picture up and I was talking like, I don't know if you read the Keller decision, but it was a 7-2. The Heller decision, you have to understand, the idea of men pray and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's sort of me mocking Pisco and making light of the situation because it's a fucking joke. Remember, all of this is because I put the word lawyer in quotation marks. What a fucking crybaby. Just an absolute crybaby. That's it. It's no big deal. Now he's RobGPT. Oh, Rob used ChatGPT. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Destiny, I was wrong to defend Destiny from blacklisting him. That's okay. I'm not fucking butthurt. I think it's funny. Go for it. Go with the GPT. I don't give a shit. There couldn't be a better acknowledgement that you have nothing to say. Couldn't be. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to file an ethics complaint. Pisco even put out there, I had a private conversation with Rob and I told him how much it hurt my feeling. And, I thought it was attack. It's true. I didn't mention that private. Yes. I had a private conversation with Pisco where this got addressed. And I told him, he was like, I feel like this was saying that I'm not a real lawyer. And I told him on the phone the same thing that I said on my video when he brought it up, the same thing that I said on X multiple times to him. Never once did I accuse him of not passing the bar and not having the credentials to be a lawyer. I put the word lawyer in quotation marks to say that he's shitty, that his argument was shitty. Just like if I say John Rock, yeah, he's a man. I'm not saying, actually John Rock doesn't have XY chromosomes. Actually, he doesn't have a penis. That's not what I'm saying, that he's not biologically a man. I'm saying you're a fucking coward, you're a sissy, you're a poor excuse for a man. That's why I'm putting it in quotes, which I'm not saying, but you understand, John. It's fucking crybaby bullshit. That's who he is. He wants to go on and attack other people. Your fucking paper's a shit rag. You fucking suck, you fucking hack. Who the fuck kind of editor are you? Oh, you fucking blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, you put the word lawyer in quotation marks. That's defaming me. The only person that's making your career look worse, Pisco, is your fucking self, you crybaby hack. But that's okay. No hard feelings here. I got great enjoyment of watching all these fucking loser DGG type people like, oh my God, I can't believe Rob, I knew Rob was always bad faith. Well, I did roar. The name of today's show was On Notice with RobGPT. So yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about it. I don't give a shit. He can keep putting me on notice. He can keep threatening, and I know he will. I'm an attorney. That's defamation, blah, blah, blah. I know that's his fucking shtick. I know. I get it. I know those type of people. Dude, I work in the most fucking low-level field possible. I'm home health care and people with developmental disabilities. You wouldn't believe how I see people abuse their positions of power. I'm in charge here, Mr. Autistic Guy that's nonverbal. When I say you're gonna get a shower at 8 p.m., you're gonna fucking get one. Or you know what? We're not gonna go out to eat at the restaurant like you wanted yesterday. It's fucking despicable. The shit I see that people in my field do. They get the slightest level of authority and I'm gonna show these motherfuckers. I'll show them I'm a tough guy. That's Pisco. That's what Pisco is a lawyer. That's what he is. It gets him off. I get it. He's probably a fucking loser. In real life. I hope not. Maybe I'm wrong. But he probably is. This is how he gets his rocks off. This is how he gets to feel like the tough guy. I passed the bar. I can threaten fucking defamation. This is it, man. I'll show these people. I'm tough. Okay, dude. Lawyer in quotes. That really fucking hit home, huh? Hardvagnar for $5 says, Rob, as an MMA practitioner and a spiritual orc, I find it hard to listen to weak, beardless, chestless men. Nietzsche warned of chestless men. Good stuff. Intel Wild, another $15. This time says, third notice, 3 strikes, you're out. Triple notice. Holy shit. So that's it in a nutshell. Again, I don't want people fucking mass spamming Pisco. I'll say it again as I've said it a million times. I completely assume that Pisco's telling the truth when he passed the bar. He may be a fantastic lawyer for the people he represents. Much of his arguments are dog shit. And I will call them out as much. And when I put the word lawyer in quotation marks, what I originally meant was he's making dog shit arguments. But now what I mean is you're a fucking bitch, Pisco. And every time I refer to you, I'm going to refer to you as lawyer Pisco. And if you want to threaten fucking defamation suits because it makes you feel like a big man, you go right ahead. But that's what I'm going to do from now until the end of the time. Lawyer Pisco. I hope you enjoy it. 5-alarm Pisco, Lawyer Pisco. Yeah. So there you go. That's all I have to say about it. Rob's still dwelling on it. He's still talking. He's still in this arc. No. I think it's funny as shit. I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. Now let's have one more serious conversation here. We're going to talk about... Oh, where was the guy that said he was still in the chat, wanted to talk? He was worked for FEMA. Are you still there? I'll bring you on if you like. Sorry, I was finishing up that point. But I don't want people to brigade Pisco. I ultimately still like Pisco. I do. People are like, oh, Pisco, you're burning bridges. No, he's not. I don't give a shit. He can say whatever the fuck he wants about me. I don't care. If he wanted to call in tomorrow and argue about some politics shit, I would do it. I don't give a shit at all. Snip, where you at? I don't see you in my Discord. You got the link? Oh, you maybe made a call? Let's see. No, that's... Oh, there you are. Okay. All right. Snip here says he works for FEMA. We'll take his word at it. I can't say FEMA worker. I don't want to get in shit, right? That's the other thing. Like, I don't even know, even though the idea that it's absurd to say that putting the word lawyer in quotes meets the level of defamation. Like, how in the fuck can you sue someone for defamation when you use a pseudonym? Right? It's so stupid. Anyways, moving on. Are you there, Snip? You might have to set up your audio. There you are.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's happening?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
Good. So you work for FEMA?
I do.
Okay.
So,
all right, I'm not gonna yell.
No. I think you should yell at us. So we're probably actually going to agree quite a bit about this. So I'm not going to give out too much information, but I'll just kind of give a preface of what I do. So I work in the public assistance realm. So I'm not like the immediate response. I'm more on the recovery side. And I've been, since 2020 working on COVID and still currently working on COVID stuff. So, so I know that's coming to an end, but it's kind of shows you how slow FEMA can be. So, but yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
So let's start on the end of like potentially defending FEMA to some degree. When it comes to like in the middle of a crisis, is there a reason? I think I outlined some of it, but isn't it true that there could be a reason why they're hesitant to allow just like anyone in the airspace or anyone to like be on the ground? Because theoretically, they do have a role to say like, well, we can't just let anyone in there, correct?
Yeah. However, the way that they should be doing it is that so they really can't go in and take control over an area. So what they're supposed to do is basically get permission from the state or whoever has the legal responsibility in that area. So if they're getting the okay from, let's say, the mayor of a certain town or from the governor, or there really shouldn't be any issue for FEMA to do this. But the issue that I don't have like inside knowledge of what's going on like on the ground. But if they're not getting that, then they're really outside of what they should be doing, and they should be justifiably, they're in the wrong. There's really kind of no like way that I can defend that action.
Sure.
So, in the disaster world, we usually say that the phrase, the disasters start local and they end local. And the locals are supposed to be in control of the response. We're here to support them however we can. But, FEMA's role really is just we're the money. We come in and reimburse, and we fund things that, normally like smaller towns or the state just can't handle if it's just too overwhelming. So, so if the reports are real, and, I can definitely see some FEMA people, kind of getting on a high horse and, kind of doing this, then yeah, it's kind of not good publicity on FEMA's side.
Yeah, and Intel Wild, thanks for the $5 as I'm putting FEMA on notice. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think my looking at this, and again, it's difficult for an outsider to really get a picture on how logistics works. Of course, there's how things look on paper, but then how they're actually implemented is different. So for me, the easiest comparison I could look at is like, look at the reaction in Florida to the reaction in North Carolina. Now, albeit the situations are different, and I think Florida is probably more prepared for something like this because they see hurricanes to this level, whereas North Carolina probably not. Still, though, it seemed like Ron DeSantis was signaling that, like, I'm in charge, we're in charge at the state.
Oh, yeah.
FEMA's providing assistance. And that seemed to be totally different than the impression you're getting out of North Carolina, where it almost seems like, whether it be a failure of the state government of North Carolina, and I think Cooper's the governor there, or the local people that either through just being overwhelmed or incompetence or whatever, it seemed that a bigger role was being put on the logistical side of FEMA. At least that's what it seems that we're being told. Now, it's hard to know exactly what information's accurate or not, but the impression I'm getting is basically in Florida, FEMA's like, how can we help Governor DeSantis? And in North Carolina, it's almost more like, well, FEMA's running the show. Like, we're running the show in this particular area, and what we say goes. I don't know how much of that's true, but I did, in my head, I'm thinking like, well, wait a minute, what is FEMA's role? Are they, is it like the equivalent like you'd see in a cop show where the local cops are handling the case and then all of a sudden the FBI shows up and they're like, shit, now they're in charge and the local cops are out of luck. Is that the way it is with FEMA? Or is it more like, no, FEMA has no authority to come in and usurp sort of the local authorities? If the local governor or mayor is like, no, we're running the show, we're doing this, we need you to provide assistance here and here. That's their role, not sort of, we're taking this shit over.
Exactly, and there might be some reasons. You have a great description of what should be happening. Is Ron DeSantis in Florida has a lot of experience. They run the show. They don't need FEMA to come in and tell them what to do, and they can say part of my job is like there's some states that I can go to and I'm supposed to work with applicants. That could be like local governments or tribal or whatever, and nonprofits. Some states we want to be involved in every single call, email, any communication, whatever you do, we have to know exactly what you're doing. And those states have the resources to really kind of put the pressure on us. But some states, if they have no experience with this, some of them, it's like, don't care, just, let us know if there's something big happening. So that might be the case of North Carolina, is that this is just so out of their wheelhouse that they are just giving the keys to FEMA. Again, I haven't seen that language from the governor or from anyone. It seems like, I don't know. At this magnitude, I don't think North Carolinas have seen something like this in a very long time or if ever. So in my mind, it could be possible that the governor says, FEMA, just take over, do what it needs to do. I got my first experience after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and FEMA basically took over that island just because of the incompetency down there and just the amount of corruption that FEMA basically just kind of skipped over the governor there and just said, no, we're taking over the response. We just can't work with you. Just too many people are dying, and the response is so hindered. So, but I don't think that's obviously the case in North Carolina. It might just be out of their wheelhouse. It might just be some people that are, trying to assert some power that they really shouldn't be doing, but it's kind of hard to tell. But really, it's the locals that, if you go in, if the governor says, oh, FEMA take over, but the locals, the local, like, county says, no, like, get the hell out of the way. FEMA's really supposed to get the hell out of the way. It's not their space to go in and, take over the airspace and deny, resources.
It's optically very bad, regardless of like the logistics of what's going on the ground.
Oh,
the
yeah.
way that they've approached it. Because I think you have to understand, no one, even the most professional of organizations, that no one's going to be perfect. And so the idea that even if you could say, look, I know about these disasters and I know what's going on and I know the rationale for it, the average person doesn't. And what they see is there's still people stranded and there are people willing to be like, we will go help. And they see reports that those people are being told like, kick rocks. No. And so what people are putting two and two together is, listen, these people, FEMA's not getting the job done. And people are willing to help, and they were getting the job done or would have been doing better, and they're being told to leave for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily what's happening, but that's the impression that people are getting. And I think because of that, at the very least, whoever's running like PR for FEMA right now there is doing a terrible job. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And I think you see this all the time anymore with a lot of these institutions that are rarely challenged, that they're just incredulous. Like, how dare you? It's misinformation. This is conspiracy theories. And it's like, but that's not assuaging anyone's fears. Like, there are people that right now are maybe, of course, there are going to be the Alex Joneses, who I like Alex Jones, don't get me wrong, but he's going to be like, it's a conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what. But there are people
love him.
Right. There's people that are more reasonable but are semi-distrusting, particularly after COVID, of a lot of these institutions. And when it's just like, oh shit, we're hearing reports of people on the ground, instead of like being transparent and being like, of course, we're never going to get anything perfect, but if you did want to help, here's the procedures you need to do. We'll be looking into these claims. Instead, it's just like, these are dangerous conspiracy theories. How dare you? And I think that, like, do they need good PR people at FEMA? Are they not hiring those people? That's not in the budget. We giving too much money to illegals for to hire a PR person, or what's going on?
I joined FEMA hoping to maybe do some good because I was in the nonprofit arena first. But after joining FEMA, it's come abundantly clear that it might just be better just to shut down FEMA. It's just kind of some of the training I've done is you're in these classrooms and we take the first day and we're getting our equipment or logging into our laptops to do stuff, and the instructors have to take an hour and a half, maybe sometimes even 2 hours, just to teach the class how to create a folder on our desktop. So that's kind of like the level of like what we're dealing with here at FEMA.
If you don't mind me, this might be a little personal, but if you don't mind me asking, what are the qualifications? Do you need a high school diploma, a college degree? Like, what are the qualifications to like get in the door to be an employee of FEMA?
Yeah, I think it's just you need a degree, just a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
That's what I have, but mine's in history, and so it's like, but after college, I joined AmeriCorps, which is where I got more disaster experience because they specifically did that, and then I did a Vista year, so I got preferential hiring, and I already networked with FEMA people and in Puerto Rico and some other places that I was deployed to. And they helped me get a job.
And I can say, this is completely off tangent, but I work with people that are employees of the state or federal government doing home health care because a lot of government money comes into facilities like mine. And so they'll do audits and they have regulations, et cetera, that are crafted by people that are public employees. They're employees. And I could honestly say, sometimes I am shocked at the level of incompetence. Like, I don't just mean like, oh, this person doesn't know much about like, history. I mean, like, your job is managing funds that are going to people with developmental disabilities, and you don't know the first thing about it. Like, at all. You don't know how to manage the funds. You don't know anything about adults with disabilities. And so I can imagine that sort of runs rife through many government agents, particularly as we see the amount of employees they're employing increasing significantly. Like, surely if you could see, for example, if you go to any high school or college, there's a lot of people there that are getting shoved through the system that probably shouldn't be. And those people are getting hired somewhere. And to think that maybe they're getting hired for government agencies that are responsible for things as important as helping managing crisis relief, it's disheartening.
Oh, yeah. Well, for like my piece that, maybe FEMA should just be shut down is, if you're so let's say this is a system that we're working and operating in, and there's an area, that really needs assistance just because, we pay taxes to the federal government, and then they have to basically beg the federal government to get that money back to respond to their own disasters. And it's unfortunate to think that, like, you might just get unlucky and just get such an incompetent person to handle your caseload, and there's so many mistakes that could happen, and you just lose your funding just because, like, your FEMA person just doesn't know what they're doing, or it's just so incompetently done that once it goes up the chain, it's just like, this doesn't make any sense. And
well,
they just deny it.
That certainly has to be the case. And I think also
Yeah.
there has to be a role, much like many of these government agencies, for the people that run it and the direction they want to take things. And my understanding is Mayorkas ultimately is the person that's at the head of FEMA, that would ultimately FEMA would answer to him. And we see where his ideological slant lies. So you have to wonder, are there certain times where the priorities of FEMA, it comes to housing illegals? Well, that's a very high priority. And then, like preparation for like hurricane disaster, maybe not so much. So you see these reports of like, well, FEMA had their list of priorities for 2023, and the first one was like diversity, and the second one was some other nonsense, and then the third one's like preparation. Have you experienced, like, is there a lot of trainings of like diversity training and things like that you go through?
Just today, it's funny because my dad is a big old liberal, a huge Democrat, and but he's like kind of an old school and just thinks like the DEI stuff is kind of crazy. But today I like to send him screenshots of events at FEMA, and today was National Coming Out Day at FEMA. So it was I always joke that to my wife that I'm a closeted gay man, so I will not be joining that meeting. So, but it's like I could send you just this year like 40 invites in our calendars that are about trans or stuff, or it's just all LGBTQ plus stuff. And it's like, how many people, like, they encourage us to put our pronouns in our emails signatures, and we don't have to. We're not gonna, and I don't, because ultimately it's just such a small portion of the public that actually like cares about that kind of stuff. And like, if you're working with like rural Americans in rural counties, I really don't want to like alienate them with that kind of stuff. So that just doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's kind of crazy at times, and I'm trying to remember some of these like courses, because they have their own pride email at FEMA where they just funnel tons. Most of my job really is just with all the emails that I get from just the FEMA just explaining what's going on. It's just like managing and putting them into different folders and deleting it. Sometimes I get to like talk to applicants and try to get them money, and hopefully they're not lying, because I'm with COVID, so it's really like I'm not on the ground there. So it's like, it's
You're right.
If they say, oh, we did this, and it's like, okay, that's all we need to know, thank you, here's your money. So it's like, there's tons of fraud I know that's happening. And even at the trainings that we do, like, that's a huge issue that gets brought up. It's just like how is this happening? Because it's obviously that tons of people are just taking advantage of this.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but they just say, "Oh, well, Congress has legalized this, so it's not your concern anymore." That's what they tell us, essentially.
Right. So I know. Speaking, I won't talk about the specific field, but I know someone who has a security clearance that works in a job that has a lot to do with the government, and the stuff that they tell me, considering the nature of this job and like the potential importance of it, regarding some of this DEI stuff, is insane. Things such as like quotas for promotions, and certain people need to be minorities in positions of authority by a certain time. And my friend's telling me like, listen, like, there's just not enough applicants that meet this, so we have to diminish the quality of applicant that we're looking for. And this person's even telling me, he's like, I think the best people I work with are women. The people that I've worked with for years that are women kick ass. They're fantastic. The problem is, on average, not a lot of women want to do this job. And so now we need women. So we're reaching out to people that are blatantly not qualified, but we have to fill the quota. And so we need certain minorities. We need certain, genders. And he's like, this is a huge problem. And he's like, and then people that are motivated that have been here for years are basically like, well, why the fuck should I care anymore? Because I'm going to get skipped over for a promotion. I know it. The quality of my work's meaningless. And that's in addition to all the trainings and bullshit like that they have to take. And the problem is, Scott Adams talks about this a lot. When you prioritize things like that, where you limit the pool of people that you're able to pick from, it doesn't even have to be corrupt. You've automatically ensured a certain level of incompetence. And
yeah.
I think that that's probably going on at FEMA and other places, not just the type of people they're hiring, but also the priorities that they have. And so, there's just so many examples. Like, remember when the Air Force was talking about like, oh, we now have, Air Force suits for pilots that are pregnant. It's like, holy shit, that's your priority? Like, we're closer to World War III than any time since, like, the Cold War, and that's the sort of shit, we're focused on. But the question I have for you, specifically regarding COVID funds, what exactly are you working on? Are you working on still, like, getting people, like, PPE loans, or are there special programs that maybe I don't really know the ins and outs of, like, people filing for relief whose small business got shut down, and now they're filing for relief outside the scopes of those loans?
Yeah, no. So I think PPE loans were. I think those were through banks, and I don't think FEMA really even like dealt with that. But so what I do is it's in the public assistance division that I work under. So there's really just a few divisions. And it's like individual assistance, which is like just giving cash to survivors. Public assistance is working with the state. And local governments, counties, nonprofits, tribal and territorial governments, and basically, like, when a disaster hits, there's different categories that we deal with. So, but like, essentially, if a building is destroyed by a hurricane, then I'll work with the county if it's a public building under their legal responsibility to repair. We work through a long process of making sure that everything's legal to reimburse them for it. And there's a cost here, so some of it's like on them sometimes, so a small portion. But for COVID, it's the only category that was under operation for public assistance is Category B, which is just emergency protective measures. So that like immediate needs to respond to the event. So,
which is funny that you're still dealing with it 4 years out. If it was about emergency immediate needs.
Well, it's like I have, at the height of it, I had like 25 applicants, and these are like counties. I won't name the state just because, privacy. I don't want people reporting me to the certain disaster response number. But I worked with the state directly, and their correctional facilities and stuff like that, and a lot of county governments and schools and some nonprofit colleges and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I only have like a few left really, and we're basically just trying to close it out. There's just there weren't any deadlines ever, so these people could just take forever. We're at the point now that leadership is telling us, like, basically, get these funds out, or just like, send these projects to the determination memo queue, which is essentially like a legal document. This is just ineligible at this point if you can't provide documentation, and then you could appeal it later if you want. But this because there's so much bad press about the hurricanes that they kind of just want to re-up resources for that, which is admirable. I think it's time to get over COVID. But yeah, there's still some applicants that are claiming costs, from the very beginning of this. And I feel bad for them because it's like, they, one specific applicant is, it's really just, they have no experience with the government. So They have no idea what they're doing. And, they have to hire consultants and stuff. I think the average cost for one project for us to process costs FEMA about $10,000 to $20,000. Wow. And just because there's tons of people that, work through it. And this is just COVID, if we're actually deployed, I was at training in Alabama recently for 2 weeks, and they gave me a rental car for a couple weeks. It cost $1,000, and 24 people were in that class, and they all got cars. So It was just 25 grand just for cars for this 2-week training, which is, just insane.
Yeah, and it's always the same when you're talking about government money, because it's, I used to tell like people, is like growing up, I remember like I would open a soda and drink half of it, and then my parents would be like, "What are you doing? That's wasteful." And you're like, "Yeah, who cares?" And then once you move out and you're spending money, you're like, "Oh yeah, this sucks." Once it's your money, and that's the issue with government money. It's like all pretend to them. It's just like, wow, whatever, we'll spend it. And it's like that with so many things with the government where it's like, well, shit, yeah. I remember when, this is sort of off topic, but remember there was this Devin Nunes memo about the whole Russiagate shit, and everyone said he was a liar, and then shit got redacted got sent out by the FBI that proved that he was right, but there was stuff redacted, and those redactions were allegedly there because it protected sources and methods of the FBI, and then a lot of it got unredacted, and a lot of the stuff that was redacted was like, FBI spent $45,000 on this couch for one of their offices, and you're like, wait, what? Like, and that shit adds up when you're doing that agency after agency. I was reading reports. I don't know if this is true, but that like billions were spent this year alone in FEMA on COVID. Now, I don't know if you know that that's true, specifically that amount of money, but I guess the question would be, is the pool of money that you're dealing with to help counties, states, etc., is that coming from the same pool of money as sort of disaster relief for things like hurricanes?
Yeah, so it's all under the disaster relief fund, and I am assigned to a smaller state, and me alone, I've processed probably close to $1 billion, and I'm not the only person on our team. There's several people on our team, and it's a lot of money that we're throwing out this, and it's funny. I wish people could like listen into our team meetings, because like, a lot of us will, openly talk about like, oh my God, like, they're buying these crappy masks, and like, we know these don't work, but it's just like they're eligible. It doesn't matter how many you bought. Doesn't really matter if you used them. It's if you bought masks or quote unquote mask. It's just like open eligibility for that, and if it's under $1 million too, it's like they don't even have to provide invoices for this stuff. They could just say, I spent $900,000 on masks, and they don't have to prove it, and it just gets obligated on our end, and that's it. There's, it's pretty simple process, and so, when I first joined, that small project limit was 134,000 or something, but it got bumped up to $1 million recently, a few years ago, and it's just like, you can tell that applicants are taking advantage of it, that they'll, instead of submitting like one big project where they'll have to, submit all the invoices and stuff, they'll just chop it up into mini projects so they don't have to provide any information. Right. And,
I remember,
sorry.
I remember that, like, this university that I was at, it's a state university, so it's different, obviously, than getting FEMA funds, but still getting money from the government. In this case, some federal funds, but largely state funding. And I remember they built a new science building, and it has this running through it, this big piece of like copper, like green metal that's running through it. And I was like, why would they put that there? And I was talking to some people that were like involved with the budgeting and stuff for it, and they're like, well, because they had to spend the money. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, well, because if you don't spend the money, then your budget gets cut. Oh, you only needed $5 million last year. You didn't use the full $10 million. So this year we're only going to budget $5 million for you. So you got to come up with a reason. Oh, well, this building costs $10 million. And yeah, maybe $5 million of it was amenities that we didn't really need, cosmetic and whatever, but we had to spend it because we need an excuse to go back. And I think that that's sort of indicative of what it's like when you're requesting government funds. You have the default presumption is request as much as possible because, one, you want the money, but second, because even if you were happy with not getting that full amount of money, now's your opportunity to do it. And if you don't do it now, well, then if it comes around again, or, then maybe next time they'll say, well, you were able to do this for X funds last time, so why do you need Y funds this time? But it's really disheartening, and it's not even corrupt. It's sort of the nature of when you're giving out. But I mean, just think of it. Like, anyone who's listening, like, think of it this way. Like, let's just say I was like, hey, I'm rich. I'm giving out money based on need, that people that need it. Like, there's going to be people that reach out to me that like really don't need money, but they'll be like, shit, I could use $100. Why not? And so that's, I think that, obviously I'm not talking about what you're dealing with specifically, but we saw with like, they're estimating it was like something like 30% of PPE loans were fraudulent. And I know, I mean, it's insane. It's like, there were people like, I remember, this is my bias, but I remember watching shows like Judge Judy during COVID, and it was amazing how many people would be on there and be like, "Yeah, I got my PPE loan, for $50,000, and we went to Cancun and we did this and did that." And she's like, well, "What's the nature of your business that you needed this loan?" "Oh, me and my sister started a business selling braids online." And it's like, and you used the money to go to Cancun. Well, yeah, and it's just like you're watching that shit. You're like, holy shit, it was really that easy. And
it's forgiven.
That's right. No one gets punished. It's just like, well, it's all fake money. I don't know if this is true, but just looking, I'm looking at Disaster Relief Fund monthly obligations for year 2024. This is supposedly from FEMA, and it says initial 2024 spend plan estimates. In fact, I can put this up. I don't know if you're watching the screen, but I can put it up here. And it suggests
I'm not, but
that's okay. It suggests in September 2024 that billions were spent on monthly obligations for COVID-19. So it's saying 3.943 in million. So that would be 3 million or 3 billion. That's just September. The year alone it has 26 billion and change that was spent. Do you think that sounds about right? Do you think that's sort of the amount?
That sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, from the small state that I'm working in, I still have like teammates that are working on like $500 million projects, and I think my biggest project that I'm working on right now is 58 million, which I think it's, all of it, I think, is just made up costs. And so I'm really fighting it and trying to get it to.
So help me understand. I'm not asking you to say anything that's like classified or that it will harm you in any way. But I don't understand, like, what's that project look like? Like a hurricane, it makes sense. Hurricane comes through, wipes out building. You're working with the local state government. Hey, it wiped out a hospital. We need the hospital. That I get. But what was COVID? So it doesn't wipe out something like the physical structures. So what's the idea that we locked down this municipal building, right? And now it needs refurbished? It needs rebuilt because it was dilapidated because people weren't working there? Did I lose you? Sorry.
So what I see I think you cut up for a second, but yeah, I know what you're asking. But so again, this is, throughout the whole country, every state, territory, tribe, this was activated. Every county, basically every applicant that applied got eligibility from the states. So it was tons of people applying for assistance under our purview. And I'll just kind of give you the basics of what I see most.
Okay.
And because, obviously the places that would most likely need the money is non-profit hospitals or county hospitals or state hospitals that are actively treating COVID-19 patients. So if they can get the documentation to show we treated X amount of people and, blah, 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 we'll fund that. And that's a pretty easy project. There's tons of issues now that we're dealing with insurance, and it looks like a lot of these hospitals were still charging these people and charging insurance, and so now we have to go through a bunch of projects to see if there's duplication of benefits. So they're making money off the insurance or these patients, and then also asking for FEMA money because they didn't think that we would be that
diligent, right?
That concerned about it, but now that's kind of a big issue right now. Those funds make the most sense. But if a county did non-congregate sheltering, this is another big kind of eligible work. Is if they basically paid a hotel to house people that were needed, that were vulnerable to the virus, like old people, or maybe people got exposed and they can't go home because they have kids or something. Then certain applicants can house them in hotels or non-congregate sheltering. The issue with that is a lot of places were just housing homeless people and saying that they were vulnerable people with no documentation to support it. So, but if it was a small project, it's easier to get them through, under $1 million. But it's kind of chaotic trying to ask okay, well, what eligibility bucket are every single person that you're housing? So we saw that food distribution, but people the school feedings, which isn't eligible, feeding the homeless isn't eligible. Has to be for vulnerable people to COVID, and so, but that got mismanaged a ton. But for like the majority of applicants that I've seen, like schools or county governments or whatever, it's just lots of PPE, lots and lots of PPE. That it's essentially just no eligibility requirements. If you bought PPE, you got it. There's little plastic dividers that you put that people buildings put up. Those were reimbursable from us. Those kinds of things, and extra cleanings if like a library owned by a county needed extra COVID cleanings, we would reimburse that. And that you could, their normal monthly budget could be $500 for cleaning, and then spent $50,000 a month.
It's like the old,
okay,
yep,
yeah. So
you're paying the contractor $1,000 per nail. Like you hear those stories, like shit. Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really does. Like, do you have any idea? I'm looking. I don't know if this is true, but FEMA's disaster budget was roughly $20 billion that was approved by Congress for the year 2024. Do you have any clues? That sound right?
I'm not exactly sure because I don't kind of keep up with the big numbers too much, but that wouldn't surprise me. Actually, that kind of sounds kind of small, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I'm just because if we spent $26 billion on COVID in fiscal year 2024, and they were only approved $20 billion, that seems like. I don't know. The whole thing, I don't know what your feelings were on COVID. I think that the reaction to COVID was worse than the virus itself. Things like disastrous lockdowns. Yeah. And it's amazing to hear this because until this incident with Helene, I was unaware that so much money was going from FEMA still in 2024 to deal with COVID. And so to me, it further illustrates the costs that were buried with our disastrous reactions to COVID. We're still paying, tens of billions of dollars out, right. and then something happens like these hurricanes, and it's like pockets out. Like, well, what are we gonna do? We don't have money. We've been dealing with this. So I am gonna have to let you go. Is there anything? Because I gotta get to bed tonight. But is there anything more you wanted to say? Like that you think?
No, I just appreciate you, Rob. I like your work, and just wanted to kind of give a perspective that, I wish you were on some of these calls with other FEMA people, because I think you'd be amazed at just like, oh my God, these FEMA people have no belief in what the message from FEMA really is or what they're supposed to do. But again, appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. See ya.
All right, man. See you. That was great. I'm glad that he called in. I would have probably just yelled about being put on notice for another. That's very interesting to hear someone that's actually working through it. I know the CDC stuff, nasty. It's ridiculous. The intel agencies still don't really know where it came from. Conservative Carnage. I don't have a bug. I was at a fire. We had a fire in my yard last week, and an ember hit my hat. So that's just from an ember. You can see. What's Tom want to call in for? I'd like to end the stream here by 11 o'clock. But if Tom wants to call in for 10, 20 minutes, his big complaint is people are lying. Of course, there's people that are not honest. I already admitted there are people that are putting AI images up. That's like the most blatant kind of lie you could get. But that doesn't mean that the reaction of FEMA is legitimate or that what they've spent money on hasn't been nonsensical, that they seem more concerned with other things. Let's see. Was I miss anything else? Ice Dancer's been arguing with Tom. Well, that's always fun, arguing with Tom. I'm bugged. Just an ember. All right, tomorrow night we'll try to do a call-in show, so people that want to call in can feel free to do so. I think that'll be a lot of fun. You can agree with me, disagree with me, yell at me, call me. We get that one guy that always wants to talk about immigration. I'm sure he'll call in. Another thing that I wanted to say, I forgot. Remember when I was talking about immigration to that person? I've had this debate several times, particularly regarding the Afghan pullout and how disastrous it was. And I said, turns out that they didn't vet these people that they were bringing in. No, they clearly vetted them. Now we find out that one planned an election day massacre. Oh, and by the way, it's someone that worked with the CIA previously. Isn't that odd? How many people that the CIA's worked with that end up being would-be assassins? But don't pay any attention to that Gretchen Whitmer case where, they radicalized a bunch of people to try to kidnap Whitmer so they could swoop in at the end of the day and say, look at these dangerous people. Ron Paul used to talk about this all the time. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like 1 out of every 3 terrorist plots that the FBI foiled were created by the FBI. And then, of course, you had the infamous, oh my goodness, in Dallas, I believe it was in Texas, Pam Geller had a Draw Muhammad contest. And that story is insane. If you want to read an insane story where, like, the FBI was in contact radicalizing this Islamic dude to kind of like take action against these anti-Islamic extremists and blah, blah, blah. And they lost control of him. And he started shooting, and the local police had to intervene. And the FBI agent that was behind him just, I'm out. Nope. And he said, not dealing with this. Isn't that great? Oh, and by the way, completely unrelated. Did you know that the second would-be assassin of Trump that they found at the golf course, now they're saying that a lot of the information has to be, it's going to take a while to bring it to trial because there's a lot of information and the intel agencies are kind of restricting what could be said. I wonder why. Strange, huh? I mean, surely he had no connections. Right? Why do we accept this? Let's assume that it's all coincidence and no, this guy didn't have any connection and blah, blah, blah. And yet still we accept, like with the Whitmer situation. Yeah, I saw Whitmer feeding Doritos to that woman. Just, I don't even know what to say. They're just... Yeah, there was even, and listen, this is something that conservatives need to come to handle with. A lot of this happened after 9/11 as well. I remember reading a story about this young Muslim guy that was basically autistic, and they set him up with promises like hooking up, pretended to be a hot chick or whatever and talked to him and convinced him to do something. And it's a guy that would have never had the ability or the wherewithal to come up with a plot like this on his own. But the FBI, through a bunch of surrogates, convinced him to do something and then arrested him. It's like, is that really keeping us safe? So, all right, tomorrow we will be doing a call-in show, most likely, unless I change my mind, but I probably won't. Really appreciated the calls tonight by Arker and Snap, I'm sorry. Appreciated it. Let's raid someone on Twitch here. Someday I'll figure out how to raid people on. I'm on notice. How to raid people. On notice, baby. Crisco's going to put me on notice again. I'm on notice. Who do we got? Ranger and Rogue. He's on notice. Everybody's on notice, baby. Better watch yourself, Buster. Everybody's on notice. So if you're on Twitch, enjoy the raid of Ranger and Rogue. Thank you, everyone who donates to me, who called in, who chats, or who's just watching. If you're on any platform that allows you to give me a thumbs up or subscribe for free, please do that. It'll help me out. Thank you. I appreciate all the kind words, too. Makes me feel good. It really does, so thank you. Supposed to get a haircut tomorrow, so tomorrow when you see me, I might be a little more trimmed up here. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, enjoy this raid if you're on Twitch. Otherwise, enjoy your evening. And as always, have a good one.